Recording in progress.
We'll have a moment of silent prayer or meditation. Thank you. You may take your seats. Honorable delegates, I would like to remind delegates that rules, in particular sub-rules 21, 22, and 23 of Rule 103 would apply. In accordance with Rule 2291, there will be no notices of motion or motions without notice. Honorable delegates, before we proceed, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome the Minister of Employment and Labour, the Honorable Minister Metz, and the Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment Affairs, Honorable Minister George from the Economic Cluster, as well as all permanent delegates, MECs, and all special delegates, and those who are online. You are most welcome to the NCOP. Further, I'd like to remind delegates that in terms of Rule 229 of the Council rules, the time for reply to the Minister is 5 minutes. Only 4 supplementary questions are allowed per question. A member who has asked the initial question would be the first to be afforded an opportunity to ask a supplementary question. The time for asking a supplementary question is 2 minutes. The time for reply to a supplementary question is 4 minutes. The supplementary question must emanate from the initial question. Honorable delegates, I now call upon the Minister of Employment and Labour to respond to question number 234 as asked by the Honorable Modise. Honorable Minister, you may take the platform. You may put your microphone on, Minister. Yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Honorable Deputy Chair, Honorable Permanent and Special Delegates, Honorable MECs, Honorable Minister, people of South Africa, good afternoon. Thank you for the question, Honorable Modise. The department is intensifying its effort to ensure that employment and labor laws are complied with in the clothing and textile sector. To this end, various unannounced proactive blitz multi-stakeholder inspections involving Department of Home Affairs, South African Police Service, and bargaining councils, together with the Department of Employment and Labour, are currently being undertaken nationwide. This multi-stakeholder approach by the Department of Employment and Labour has to date yielded positive results in that a number of employers in this sector have been served with compliance notices as a result of them not complying with employment and labour laws. In certain instances, factories have been shut down for gross violation of labour laws. A number of undocumented foreign nationals have also been arrested by SAPS during these blitz inspections and processed by the Department of Home Affairs for deportation. The Department of Employment and Labour also work closely with the National Bargaining Council for clothing and manufacturing industry to ensure that there is maximum compliance with employment and labour laws. Advocacy sessions with various stakeholders within the clothing and textile sectors are also regularly held to raise awareness of the importance of complying with labour laws. Thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. We now go on to follow-up questions. Honourable Modise.
Thank you, Chair. And Minister, now I understand why Honourable Dlamini refers to you as a national shop steward. The response are quite detailed. However, Chair, I just want to check with the Minister that between the 2023, 2024, 2024, 2025, and the current financial year, how many inspections have you conducted both in Gauteng and the Western Cape? And what were the findings of those inspections? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Modise. Honorable Minister, your response.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Thank you, Member. It is also important just to inform the members of this August House and the people of South Africa that it depends what special focus we are paying in a particular year. So the numbers differ because there are different sectors that become problematic at a particular time. And as such, we shift our attention depending on what is reported to us and also what is our target for that particular year. But in terms of the textile and clothing industry, we conducted since 2023, 2024, an amount close or just less than 300 of inspections in that particular year. And they about just less than 50% of the businesses that we inspected were compliant, and more than 50% of those businesses were not compliant. But in 2024-2025 financial year, we had shifted the focus from that particular sector, and we focused broadly on the manufacturing sector. And they, in terms of the textile industry, they only conducted one inspection for 2024-2025. This current year, we are still having inspected about 9 businesses. As I said, because of many sectors that we are dealing with, we, from time to time, focus on a particular problematic industry. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We now move on to the next follow-up question, and that's from the Honorable Boshoff.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. Good afternoon to you, Minister. Minister, you've now said that action is under consideration. Can you then confirm on record the exact date the matter was referred for prosecution and the name of the responsible officials? Otherwise, will you accept that this department of yours is tolerating exploitation? And should you not have a referral date today, will you place a binding instruction on record that no inspector will conduct another inspection at those sites without an accompanying closure order being served within 7 days? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for your response.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. May I please ask the member to repeat the question?
Honorable Boshoff, could you please repeat?
Okay, I'm sorry that I cannot speak a vernacular language, but I hear, Minister, that there is action under consideration. And in view of that, can you confirm on record the exact date the matter was referred for prosecution and the name of the responsible officials? Otherwise, if you are not able to do that, you accept that this department is tolerating exploitation, and should you not have a referral date today for this House, will you place a binding instruction on record that no inspector will conduct another inspection at these sites without an accompanying closure order being served within 7 days?
Thank you so much, Honorable Member, for that repeat of your question, even though not in a vernacular language. I appreciate. Honorable Chair, maybe it's me who doesn't understand the question of the Honorable Member. I see it not being related to the main question, because the main question never made reference on any officials. It was talking about the inspection that is happening at the textile sector with no specific mention of any officials of the department or any of the partner departments that are conducting inspection having been alleged of doing anything that is wrong.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I think since the question that is coming from the Honorable Member, the follow-up question, required specific date and names of people, I don't think the Minister would have that information on hand. And maybe if the Minister can then forward that information to the Honorable Member at some other time. Honorable Minister.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chair, I will do that.
Thank you very much. We now move on to the next follow-up question, and that comes from the Honorable Mampuru.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings, Minister. Minister, will the program which you speak of offer any incentives or special labels for textile that are produced in a sustainable way? If yes, please provide details in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, your response.
I think I have a problem today. Maybe it's my ears. Not that I don't understand English. The Honorable Member is referring to the program that I'm referring to. And my understanding of what I responded to in the main question is the issue of the inspection of the textile sector. So I am even lost now when the member is making that follow-up. Maybe with your indulgence, Honorable Chairperson, I can still request the member to repeat his question.
It'll be a long day.
Honorable Member, would you like to repeat the question?
Chair, this question is in relation to what the Minister have said in terms of the programs that they are embarking on. Hence, my question was to say, would it provide any details? Because she spoke of the oversight or the inspections which they have done. I think that's what the question is related to. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, do you want to respond?
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. Thank you so much, Chair. In the nature of the business that we conduct as a department, part of the work that we do, which is natural, is inspection and enforcement. And we do it almost every day. So I would love then the member to be specific, to say if then he wants us to provide specific in inspection that we conduct and enforcement, is there a particular time frame for this financial year, for the previous financial year, or for over how many years? Because if I'm to provide information on the specifics of the work that we do in conducting inspection and enforcement, that will be a whole thesis. So maybe outside this meeting, Honorable Chair, if the member can be clear to say what exactly is the specification or specific information that is required on the work of inspection and enforcement, because it's what we do almost every day across sectors, including the one that was asked on textile, which we said they've conducted from 2023 to 2024. So if then that information that is needed is only for the 3 years that we've mentioned here, we will gladly do that to share the information on the less than 300 that we have conducted inspections over, and the 1 and the 9 that we conducted previous year and this financial year. That we can gladly do, Honorable Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We now move on to the next follow-up question, and that's from the Honorable Mslongo.
Greetings, Chair, and thank you so much. Greetings to the Minister. Minister, looking at our textile and factory sector, they have been employing a lot of foreigners. And what measures have you placed to ensure that undocumented foreigners are not benefiting from the program?
Honorable Minister, your response.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. We have noticed that it has become a norm that we get undocumented foreign nationals working in our country, not just on this industry. So yes, I agree, even in the textile industry, there is that problem. But we treat sectors and industries the same. It is not allowed in South Africa for a foreign national to be employed. So there are different types of transgressors. You get those who got visitors' visas, others are having student visas, but you find them at a workplace. So from time to time, when we do inspections, as I said earlier on, we work with Department of Home Affairs, we work with SAPS, we work as a team, we work with bargaining councils, where we get somebody who is at work without any documentation. We work with Home Affairs and we refer such for processing to SAPS and Home Affairs. Some instances they get to be deported, some instances they get to be warned, given fines, others they get to be arrested. So same like any other industry. If we find an undocumented foreign national in our space at the workplace, that's what we do in terms of the sanctions that we provide or we impose. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of questions 2, 3, 4. We now move on to question number 223, as asked by the Honorable Boshoff. And this question deals with employment equity and sectoral targets. Honorable Minister, your response.
Honorable Member, it is important to firstly clarify that the newly published 5-year employment equity sectoral targets do not constitute rigid racial quotas because Section 15, subsection 3 of the Employment Equity Act of 1998 already prohibits any form of quotas. The sector's employment equity targets are flexible benchmarks rather than rigid quotas because designated employers, that is those employers that employ 50 or more employees, still retain the power of self-regulating their own annual employment equity targets towards achieving the 5-year sector EE targets. The setting of own annual EE targets in the EE plan must take place in consultation with the employees at a workplace level. Furthermore, if the designated employer fails to achieve their own annual employment equity target, I want to put a point of emphasis on own annual employment equity target that must be set by employers, not quotas. The Employment Equity Act makes provision for the employer to raise a reasonable or justifiable ground for its failure to comply. It is critical to note that the sector EE targets were developed after extensive consultation process with sector stakeholders, various employer organizations, and the public in general. With regard to uncertainty, it is critical to note that there is no uncertainty created by sector EE targets because the department has developed and published employment equity regulations that provide clear implementation guidelines to assist employers and employees on how to interpret and implement the 5-year sector EE targets. In fact, 2 sets of EE regulations, that is the General Administrative Regulations with various EE templates and the regulations on the 5-year sector EE targets were published on the 15th of April 2025 to enhance the implementation mechanisms. On the question of costs that may destroy small, medium businesses, it is significant to note that small to medium employers that employ less than 50 employees are exempted from complying with the requirements of Chapter 3 of the EEA on the implementation of affirmative action measures. This implies that these small businesses are excluded from complying with the 5-year sector EE targets, development of EE plans, and the submission of EE reports. As a result, these small businesses will not be negatively affected by the sector EE targets because the regulatory administrative burden has been reduced by the introduction of Employment Equity Amendment Act number 4 of 2022 with effect from 1 January 2025. Therefore, any claims that sector EE targets will lead to job losses are unsubstantiated because currently there is no empirical evidence suggesting that the implementation of employment equity and sector EE targets may result in widespread retrenchments or reduced job creation. On the contrary, inclusive and diversified workplaces promote equity, productivity, innovation, and sustainable economic growth, all of which are key enablers of employment growth. Of significance to note is that the objective of the sector EE target is not to displace any employees, but but to ensure equal access to employment opportunities for all South Africans as envisioned in our Constitution. In a society still grappling with the structural legacies of apartheid, transformation of labour market remains a crucial component of sustainable economic development. Thank you, Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Before we move on to the first follow-up question, I'd like to acknowledge the presence in the gallery today of Mr. and Mrs. Mokoena, the proud parents of Honourable Mokoena. They have come to see how her daughter works and whether she's working well. Welcome. And thank you for joining us in the NCOP. Thank you very much. Now we move on to the first follow-up question, Honourable Boshoff. Honourable Boshoff, your follow-up question, please.
From the DA, welcome to the Mokoena family. Honourable Minister, it is nice to shift the responsibility of these targets to the employer. But in saying that, will you today commit to immediately suspending the enforcement of these targets on businesses with 50 or more employees, pending the court outcome, and to publishing a full socio-economic impact assessment, including consultation records, within 30 days, so that Parliament and the public can see whether proper due processes were followed? Thank you, Chair. Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Boshoff. Honourable Minister, your follow-up, your response to that.
Thank you, Deputy Chair and the Honourable Member, my chairperson of my select committee. Actually, my understanding of the doctrine of separation of powers is that the judiciary, the executive, and the legislature have distinct powers. So I don't expect NCOP or a House of Parliament to give instructions on something that is before the court of law, which are interpreted to be sub judice. Fortunately, the Honourable Member comes from the same party that has taken us to court challenging Employment Equity Act and its constitutionality. So we won't stop anything we're doing until or unless we are instructed by the court of law to do that. And for now, what we have done to exempt in certain areas of the implementation of the EE Act, all those companies that employ less than 50 employees, we think that suffices. Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. We now move on to the next follow-up question, and that's from the Honourable Sitole. I believe she is on the virtual platform. Honourable Sitole.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Chairperson. I'm just going to turn on my video just for you to see that it's me.
Could you please put your camera on for at least for a few minutes?
Yes. No,
Okay,
Honourable,
thank you.
yes. Honourable Deputy Chairperson, thank you very much once more. And good afternoon to the honourable members in-house and on the platform, and to the Minister also. My question is that, Honourable Minister, for your, how are you going to ensure that administrative implementation of Employment Amendment Act will indeed practically translate the text accurately and professionally? And it will do this without distortion, confusion, and unintended consequences. Thank you very much, Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Minister, did you get that question clearly?
Yes, Deputy Chair.
Okay, you may respond. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Just as a recap, a part of the work that we do as the Department of Employment and Labour is not just to inspect and enforce, is to make sure that what we are inspecting and what we are enforcing is understood by the public. And as such, we take it as our primary responsibility to empower our citizens as we come up with those laws legislations and regulations. We conduct comprehensive awareness and outreaches to ensure that people understand. Even in this case, we were working with the Commission for Employment Equity to ensure that there are mechanisms that are extensive and are put in place to ensure people that understand what we mean about this Amendment Act and also its regulations. So we developed sets, about 2 sets of EE regulations, which I had said earlier on, were published on the 15th of April 2025, which include the general administrative regulations and regulations on the 5-year EE targets. And they provide guidelines to employees, to employers, trade unions on the interpretation and implementation of the Employment Equity Amendment Act at the workplace level. And in addition to that, we've got EE system, which was updated to ensure that there is automatic or automated employment equity amendments that are issued in terms of the certificate, EE certificate of compliance, to make it easier. So our EE amendments, they are on the system, easily accessible for people, even when they apply. We are trying to avoid any human interaction, to avoid any potential risk of people being corrupted, or colluding with the citizens to get certificates, even though they don't necessarily comply. So the automated EE certificate, it is just applied on the system and people are able to get those. And subsequent to that, Honorable Chair, employment equity awareness campaigns and employment equity roadshows were conducted for the full duration of 3 months, from May, June up to July this year, in all provinces, where we're raising awarenesses, educating our people and capacitating the labor inspectors, the employers, the organizations of employers, the human resource practitioners, trade unions, EE forum members, academics, designated employment equity officials on the EEA and the regulations. And we provided almost all those we interacted with practical demonstration of the updated EE system, and we issued EE and the issuing of the EE compliance certificates. So we even complemented our roadshows and expanded the department's outreach program. And we have EE video clips that were developed and we posted on the department's website and social media platforms to provide support and guidance to employers, employees, and the public through the transitional and implementation process of the EE amendments. So with that having been said, we hope at least it is easily understood what is expected, because we have empowered our citizens. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The next follow-up question is from the Honorable Kennedy.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Good afternoon, Minister. Minister, in what ways can we leverage the new targets as an opportunity to enhance our employer brand, attract top talent from all groups, and improve overall business performance? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kennedy. Honorable Minister, your response.
That's a very important question, Honorable Member. Thank you for that. Because indeed, if we are optimistic enough, we can use the same EE targets to enhance employability of the citizens of this country across races and across gender. Because our problem that we have discovered is that the issue of the top management is so engendered and so racialized. So it is because of these EE targets and their implementation that we will see all the qualifying and competent individuals of our country rising the ladder to be in the top management and the executive management as opposed to the current situation where the minority of those who are economically active citizens, they are found to be the one dominating in the top management and in the executive. But through this and implementation of this, we'll get that fair opportunity for people who are suitably qualified to rise up the ladder and get equal opportunity. And as such, we'll have a very productive country in terms of economic activity, because there's a lot, in particular women, that if you put them at the top, you see good results that are at the current moment denied that opportunity. Thank you very much, Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The next follow-up question is from the Honourable Van den Berg.
Thank you, Chair. A 2011 UK Department of International Development study found affirmative action under the EE Act had marginal effects on reducing employment gaps, but minimal influence on overall job numbers, attributing limited impact to skills mismatches rather than policy design. Research on broad-based Black economic empowerment intertwined with EE shows a small positive impact on firm turnover, but no effect on profits or robust productivity gains, suggesting indirect benefits without widespread job creation. Minister, you have justified EE legislation by showing that those will not be affected negatively and will not be included in the EE legislation, therefore admitting to the negative impacts. Would it not be beneficial to rather focus on more direct employment creation policies? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable Minister, your response.
Thank you, Honourable Member, and thank you for that scientific evidence that you are presenting on UK. But I'm yet to hear a scientific one. I'm not saying it's not there, about the negative impact of transformation in South Africa. And it's unfortunate that members would continue to raise the issue of not wanting to accept transformation. Our understanding is that South Africans are equally able and are equally supposed to be given an opportunity. But if then there is scientific evidence that says doing that might affect negatively the economy, it's something that if it is brought forward, we can argue and come with counter arguments that are scientific. Unfortunately, as I'm standing here, I don't have that. But what I know, you put a woman on a strategic position, you see the doubled or even tripled outcome or output in terms of production. So I'm yet to be engaged and be convinced scientifically by the Honourable Member to say we must just throw the baby with the bathwater and say it is well. We can remain with the segregation and discrimination along the color and gender. Thank you so much, Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. That concludes question 223. We now move on to question 235 that was asked by Honourable Slaganisa Nodada. And I am told that this question today is going to be taken by the Honourable Modise. Honourable Minister, you may respond to this question that deals with the inspection of employment places.
Thank you, Honourable Chair and the Honourable Member. The Department of Employment and Labour currently has 2,500 labour inspectors in all provinces, the total for the whole country, to inspect workplaces in South Africa against various employment and labour laws, which I am told they are even close or more than 10 million. This number has proven to be inadequate given the huge number of workplaces to be inspected. The Department of Employment and Labour is constantly advocating employers to self-regulate in order to ensure employment and labour laws are complied with. The Minister of Employment and Labour has recently launched an initiative named Project 20,000, where 20,000 graduate interns are being employed to assist labor inspectors to ensure that there is maximum compliance with employment and labor laws in South African workplaces. And we are doing that as we were considering innovative and creative ways, in particular with the use of IT, because it is becoming unachievable, unrealistic, and impossible to think we can have inspectors who can get physically to each and every business. Hence, we need to look at the IT. So whilst we are doing that as a department, working with our entities, we are employing these interns as a way of transitioning from the physical inspection to using all creative means, including use of digital technologies. Thank you so much, Honorable Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We go to the follow-up questions, and Honorable Modise.
No, thank you, Minister, for the response. And I'm sure Honorable Zangisa Notata is excited where she is with the response. And she also want me to ask you that in relation to the addition of inspectors through various interventions, including Project 2000, in which year do you think all of these interventions, the outcomes will be realized? Thanks.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, your response.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. May I ask the member to repeat the question? I heard something about Project 2000.
Honorable Modise.
In relation to the addition of inspectors through various interventions that you are doing, because you are saying there are about 200 or so inspectors countrywide. And part of those is Project 2000, or 20,000 rather, Project 20,000. So all these interventions, when do you think the outcomes will be able to appreciate the outcomes of the work that you are doing in terms of the interventions?
Okay.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, your response.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Yes, I said we've got currently about 2,500 inspectors who are expected to inspect close to 10 million businesses. And as such, it becomes unaffordable for us to reach each and every business physically. And as such, we have engaged in this project 20,000, where we want to hit 2 birds with 1 stone. Give opportunity for the first time at work for the graduates as part of experiential learning, and also ensure that we, in a very big way, a big banks approach of making sure that there is availability and there is access by inspectors to these companies that are majority of times found to be non-compliant. But as we do that, we are expecting, because this 20,000, we're employing 10,000 for one financial year, which is this financial year. Already I was reliably informed more than 3,000 have been employed. So expecting by the end of the financial year, at least we must have employed 10,000, which is a 2-year internship. Then next year we take another 10,000. So it means we'll have 3 years which are overlapping, or one cohort overlapping to the 2 years of the other. And that will give us enough space as we don't wait until we find a solution on using IT system to do massive inspection. And if then we succeed in that, one, the impact will be us having that system or that approach of using IT to access businesses. 2, we will be making a big dent in terms of getting to the businesses. Because as we speak now, if inspectors go there, they work, but the employers are almost guaranteed that they won't come back anytime soon because the number is so less. So the impact will be that there will be compliance, they'll be doing the work that we do on advocacy massively, and also there will be reduction in terms of those who are transgressing. Because what we have learned, when we empower people, we educate them, they do comply. But on top of that, then there is the transgressions that we find from those who are not able to take up kindly our advocacy that we are doing. Then we are compelled to impose those sanctions, as we do. As we said, we do the issue of notice on compliance issuing, we do issues of prohibition, we shut down, and working with SAPS and Home Affairs, we do refer many people to police to be processed. So we are hoping The more we have more people that get to these establishments, the more empowered people are and the more enforcement is implemented, then there will be reduction on those who are not complying. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We now move on to the next follow-up question, and that's from the Honorable Billy.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Minister. Minister, in light of the recent rise in incidents where private citizens, including individuals claiming affiliation to the MK Party's Labour desk, have been conducting unauthorized immigration and labour inspections at businesses in KwaZulu-Natal, and we are also now seeing this in Gauteng and in the Western Cape. Minister, actions that fall squarely within the mandate of the department's own labour inspectors. I want to understand what specific measures is the department taking to reaffirm its authority, protect lawful inspection processes, and prevent the usurpation of state powers by such groups. Furthermore, has the department engaged with law enforcement agencies to ensure that these unlawful activities are kept and that legitimate labour inspections are conducted only by duly authorized officials? Thank you.
Right question.
Thank you very much, Honorable Billy. Honorable Minister, your response.
Okay, thank you, Honourable Member. Firstly, we condemn the actions that are taken by individual groups, be it political parties, civil society organizations, or individuals who conduct inspections, yet they are not legally empowered to do such. Because we as the Department of Employment and Labour have inspectors and we are trying our best, as I said in my previous reply, to add and expand so that then people don't panic and think we'll never get to a particular problematic area. But we appreciate the ongoing feedback, information, reporting, whistleblowing that happens by those individual groups. They don't necessarily need to do it themselves, because should they be on the wrong side of the law, they would regret. It is the Department of Employment and Labour working with its partners that is empowered to conduct inspections. So we would continue to encourage individuals, groups of our country to give us information on areas that they see to be problematic in terms of non-compliance. And as ever when we get information, whenever we get that information, we prioritize areas where we've been given information by citizens that there are these problematic areas. There's a lot of examples of places where we went because of the reports that we are getting from individuals, from whistleblowing, or even political parties that have trust in us. Because I think citizens, both of South Africa and those who are in businesses, regardless of them being from other countries or not, they still have a right to go to the law agencies when they see that their rights are being abused by people who are not competent in terms of the law to conduct inspections. Thank you so much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The next follow-up question is from the Honorable Machobeni, and I am told that she's on the virtual platform. Honorable Machobeni.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Greetings to you, greetings to the Minister and honorable members. Thank you, Minister. You've covered my question because my question said that inspection is a primary mode of service delivery in your department. But my question said across different terms of location as the outdated tools which are currently being used lead to insufficiencies, data error, and delays results. You've answered me well, Minister, because you've mentioned it's unfavorable to reach, and also you've said there will be e-access, and also there will be e-visibility and e-compliance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister, do you want to add anything?
No, Chair, I'm covered. Well, the member is covered.
Thank you. Then we move on to the next Honorable Member, and that's the Honorable Farmer.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. Thank you, Minister. Minister, has your department taken steps to ensure integrity and transparency in the inspectorate system itself? including prevention of corruption, bribery, or selective enforcement during workplace inspections? Thank you.
Honorable Minister, your response.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Labor inspectors are public servants and therefore must comply with the Public Service Code of Ethics. Any allegation of bribery or any other allegation of impropriety on the part of labor inspectors must be reported to the department, whereafter due processes would ensue in terms of investigations, prosecutions, sanctions, in terms of disciplinary procedures. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. That brings us to the close of question 235. Before we move on to the next question, I'm told that the Honorable Acting Chief Whip as a guest in the gallery, and that's Mr. Boya Enric from Bakenberg, Limpopo. We welcome you, sir, and thank you for joining us in the NCOP. Honorable members, Honorable Minister, we now move on to question 220 that was asked by Honorable Montwedi. And the question deals with the employment of illegal immigrants. Minister, your response.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. On the note of acknowledgement of your guests, I've got my sister-in-law, who's the wife to my brother who came after me, who's in the house at the gallery. Border Management Authority, tasked with managing our ports of entry, has the responsibility to control the movement of people across our borders. The processing of undocumented migrants resides within the Department of Home Affairs. We support their interventions through our joint inspections with the police and immigration officers in various workplaces. The Department of Employment and Labor has published a national labor migration policy after it was approved by Cabinet, outlining government's approach in dealing with economic migrants coming to South Africa in search of employment and citizens intending to secure employment in other countries. The policy goes into detail in how we intend managing labor migration to ensure orderly movement of people, and how we are also intending to maintain data for monitoring and evaluation processes. We have also submitted an Employment Services Amendment Bill to Parliament. I hope, or we hope, this House shall pass that bill when it comes to it, to provide the department officials and the minister with additional legislative mandate to deal with related migration aspects. Because as we speak now, it becomes difficult to take any authoritative decision. We are the mere referrals to the police and to Home Affairs. So this bill is trying to give the Department of Employment some teeth to bite when it comes to transgressors. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We now move on to the follow-up questions. Honorable Montwedi.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. A very good day, Minister, and everyone in the House. Minister, your answer, your response is noted in that border management has that responsibility. But the follow-up that I just want to do is that one of the causes of farm killings is the issue of having undocumented foreign nationals that are working in farms. At the time of them having to be paid or remunerated, they then get chased away. And then they come to commit, crime by end up killing the farm workers. So we acknowledge that, the farm owner, we acknowledge that it's border management that has got that responsibility. But if you go to a farm as your department and you find that, because that's cheap labor that most farmers are using, what measures do you put in place to ensure that you hold those farmers accountable, because they are the one, when illegal immigrants are here, they take them because they are cheap labor? What measures do you put in place to discourage them from doing that? So that people must ensure that, and you raised also when you were responding to question 234,
that there's also a serious challenge of undocumented foreign nationals in the textile industry. But what measures do you put in place in terms of dealing with that as a department? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable Minister, your response.
Thank you, Honourable Member. You are raising a very important aspect because the agricultural sector is the most problematic sector. We have adopted an approach of unannounced visits because our experience, if we announce our visits, we will be managed by these employers. It is alleged they even keep different payrolls with South Africans, payrolls with those undocumented foreign nationals. For the purposes of us doing inspections and enforcement, they will give us all the information. In some instances, we even do the random selection of the employees for us to interview. We would see sometimes that they are even very resistant, wanting when we want to interview employees to select for you. And we try by all means. But another very difficult issue is that the farm workers are working in open spaces. So when we come, sometimes we experience movies where people run away up the mountain where you can't get them. Because the reality is that because employers continue to want to ensure that they don't comply with South African labor laws, they will make sure that they don't appoint South Africans. It is for that reason that we are saying the National Migration Labour Policy will also give the minister powers to set aside some sectors that these are specifically reserved or preserved for South Africans. And as we do our inspections, what I forgot to mention, we don't only deal with an undocumented foreign national. If you are an employer and you find somebody in your workplace who is working without any document to show that he is legally there, both of you get to be referred to the police station. So it's part of the sanctions that we impose of ensuring that working with our partners, SAPS and Home Affairs, those that employ undocumented foreign nationals get to be referred to the police station for them to be processed. Thank you very much, Honourable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. The next follow-up question is from the Honourable Mabilo.
Thank you so much, Deputy Chair. Honourable Minister, I'm interested to know which farms have been inspected by your department in the previous financial year, that is 2024-2025, and first quarter of 2025-2026 in the two provinces of Northwest and Free State. Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable Minister, your response.
The Honourable Member missed an opportunity to get the response now. Because if only that question was not an anticipated follow-up question, if it was a question that was forwarded in writing, would be in a position to give detail. So we respectfully request the chairperson with your indulgence that we submit information in detail in terms of the work that we've done. If I can be protected, Honourable Member, because I think
you're protected, Honourable Minister.
Out of order.
You're protected.
They even accuse us of being copycats or being given questions in advance. So I think the Honourable Member did the right thing to bring the question here without having shared it with me. So I'm requesting, with the indulgence of the chairperson, to say we've got details in terms of the time and the number of farms that were inspected in the provinces that the member is talking about. So within a period of 2 days, we'll be able to submit that report to the Honourable Member, through you, Honourable Deputy Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Yes, the rules do apply, allow for that, where specifics are being asked for, and if it is not available in the sitting, it can be forwarded to the Honourable Member at a later stage. Thank you very much. We move on to the next follow-up question from the Honourable Billy.
Thank you again, Deputy Chair. Minister, do you not find it hypocritical that the EFF cries about illegal workers on white farms, yet its own call for a borderless Africa has fueled the exploitation of undocumented foreigners as cheap labor, undermining the enforcement of South Africa's labor and immigration laws, weakening our job protection for local workers, our brothers and sisters, and also fueling the very same exploitation that the EFF claims to oppose. Thank you.
Honourable Minister, your response.
Thank you, Chair. May you please allow me for once not to be a politician. I think those are politics that I cannot stand here and talk into detail about. Yes, I think the members of the EFF who are members of this House have a right to raise issues. What they do outside that, I think, is for political parties to engage. Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. We now move on to the next follow-up question. Honourable van den Berg.
See if you get an answer.
I doubt. Minister, you say farmers face arrests and penalties for hiring undocumented workers, as also seen in a 2025 case in the Western Cape, where a farmer was detained for employing foreigners without permits. These workers are frequently employed in seasonal or precarious roles due to labor shortages, with estimates suggesting they fill gaps in agriculture where local recruitment is challenging. Minister, there are very few South African youths willing to do laborers' work on a farm. When it's time to harvest, the window is very small. Would you rather prefer these farmers to close down, leading to even more misery and unemployment? And how do these illegal workers arrive in the country anyway?
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Minister, your response.
Honourable Chair, I think the farmers who experience shortage of labour, they approach wrong doors if they go to honourable members of this House. As far as I'm concerned, we've got majority of young people in our country who are very active economically, who are unemployed. And my understanding of the work that is done at the agricultural sector is low-skilled jobs. We don't even need people with degrees or whatever. If then there is an allegation that people of South Africa are not enough for them to be employed there, I would still be interested in an engagement further, because my belief is that there's many people outside there. Hard labor issues, okay, it might be correct. So that's for that reason why, as the Department of Employment and Labor, we also conduct job counseling for the people so that they understand why is it important that when they get jobs, they must obey by the laws of those employers. They must also be able to work because sometimes you get some reasons that South Africans, they are lazy. When it's Monday, they are not coming. They are always having stories not to come to job. We can take joint action with the employers as the Department of Employment and Labor to further engage South Africans because they are there. We can't go the easy route of excluding them and going to take undocumented foreign nationals to come and work for us. Those two wrongs can't make it right. Thank you so much, Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. That brings us to the close of question 220. We now move on to question 219 that was asked by the Honourable Mokoena. And the question deals with BEE fronting schemes. Honourable Minister.
It is important to highlight that all matters pertaining to the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Act, including BEE fronting schemes, fall under the purview of the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition, and not under the Department of Employment and Labor. The BEEA, its regulations, and BEE sectors codes measures 5 key elements: ownership, management control, skills development, enterprise and supplier development, and socio-economic development. Therefore, any acts of fronting schemes must be referred to DTIC BE unit for investigation and enforcement under the BBBEEA. Furthermore, it is significant to note that the employment of undocumented and or illegal immigrants is a criminal offense under the Immigration Act in South Africa. All matters relating to the employment of undocumented and or illegal migrants is handled by the Department of Home Affairs. Therefore, any employment of undocumented and or illegal immigrants must be reported to the Department of Home Affairs and the South African Police Services. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Minister. We go on to follow-up questions, and the first follow-up is from the Honorable Mokoena.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Minister, for that answer. Given the fact that companies are still getting away with employing undocumented foreigners, what strategies have you put in place since being in this office to ensure that there's intergovernmental relations between the departments that you've just mentioned, your Home Affairs, your DTIC? What strategies have you got as the three departments to make sure that this kind of thing never happens? Because it seems like companies are getting away with it. And when you look at all the high court orders, recent high court orders, companies are getting away with murder. They are not even receiving criminal charges. They are basically being given fines, which they can easily pay off. So what strategies have you put in place to ensure that Black people do thrive in this economy? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mokoena. Honorable Minister, your response.
Thank you, Member. There is a difference between integrated or intergovernmental relations and encroaching to other departments' powers and functions. So there is a collaboration, there is good working relations. If you want to see IGR in action, go to the work of Employment and Labor, Home Affairs, SAPS, and bargaining councils. But when it comes to the powers and functions of each one of us, we must implement what the law requires us to implement. It is for that reason that I said earlier on, we are not comfortable by the fact that we merely refer these people to be processed by either SAPS or Home Affairs. It is for that reason that we, as the Department of Employment and Labor, have taken an action and came up with a National Migration Labor Policy and also request the two houses of Parliament to relook at the employment the EAP that we are bringing in terms of the Employment Act. We are saying we want to look at it so that we are able, as the minister now is given some teeth to the NLMP, to take a decisive decision and action on what can be done with those illegal migrants that we find in our shores, but also there must be sectors that are set aside for the Minister of Employment and Labor to say these ones, they are not a highly technical skill, they are not a scarce skill, and as such, they must be preserved for South Africans. What the other departments are doing, it's still in the powers of this House to call those honorable ministers and deputy ministers and departments to come and account on what they have individually done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. The next follow-up question is from the Honorable Sotole on the virtual platform. Honorable Sotole.
No, thank you, Deputy Chair, and thank you, Minister, for the response. Honorable Minister, there is a story of a day break, which I understand is one of many attempts by government to empower, accommodate, and expand the participation of all in the economy. Now, Minister, what is the brief background of Daybreak, the current status, and the way forward? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Minister, your response.
I just failed to understand the relation of the Daybreak question by the Honourable Member and the main question on BEE fronting schemes. Honourable Chairperson, my apologies. So I'm not able to link it as a follow-up that is linked to that question.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members will know that the follow-up questions must relate to the original question that was asked. We then move on to the next follow-up question, and that's from the Honourable Brits.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Chair. Will the Minister consider replacing race-based compliance with evidence-based inclusion metrics as the DA proposes through SDG-aligned procurement that rewards firms for measurable poverty reduction and job creation rather than box-ticking racial accounting?
Right question.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Minister, your response.
I think the question on procurement, again, Honourable Chair, with due respect, it's a matter that can be referred to the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, because here we are dealing with the issue of fronting, which I have said in terms of my main reply, it belongs to the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition.
Thank you very much, Minister. We now move on to the next question, and that's the question that comes from the Honourable Machobeni, who is on the virtual platform.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson. I won't open a video. Where I am, it's windy, it's raining. Minister, given that fronting practices undermine the achievements and advancement of employment equity, as those who are hired to front for the companies are not actively performing the required duties of their positions or enjoying economic benefits that will ordinarily be received by people. What measures have you put in place to ensure that these are set in various economic sectors to ensure equitable representation at all occupational levels in the workplace? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honourable Minister, did you hear the question clearly?
I don't want to blame the Honourable Member because the problem is with the main question. So still, it is unavoidable to have follow-up questions that are the relevant ministry that can help us on these questions is that department. Thank you so much, Honourable Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, I would crave your indulgence, especially when members are on the virtual platform and the sound is not very clear, to please try and refrain from making comments and making it difficult for us to hear clearly what the member on the virtual platform is asking. Having said that, we now move on to question 236 that was asked by Honourable Dlamini, and the question deals with youth unemployment. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Chair. Youth unemployment has been identified as one of the high priorities of the department's action plan and also as part of the government's medium-term development plan. The Department of Employment and Labour has adopted a number of strategies to help the unemployed youth. This involves the provision of public employment services, registration of work seekers, canvassing of opportunities from potential employers, and placing work seekers into employment. To help youth cope with unemployment, the Department Employment Counsellors provide various programs to support youth with employment and life skills advice. The department, through its entities, particularly the UIF, has implemented more than 115 employability projects involving more than 287,000 beneficiaries across the 9 provinces as an interim intervention, because this is just part of the public employment programs that we are conducting as the department, including other departments who have such public employment programs. The Department of Employment and Labour, through the Business Government Partnership Task Team that focuses on small and enterprise development, on skills and employment, undertake programs that can unlock job opportunities in critical sectors. This includes being the lead department in the National Pathway Management Network, that has been playing a pivotal role in supporting youth and unlocking job opportunities. The department, from a policy perspective, is also proposing the implementation of National Labour Migration Policy, which has been approved by Cabinet and will shortly also begin consultation on the proposed new National Employment Policy and framework to coordinate public employment programs so as to increase their impact. But having said that, Chair, it is also important that the House notes that the sluggish economic growth in our country has a direct impact on the creation of jobs, and the business and investors play a very crucial role in ensuring that jobs are created. It's just for that reason that the committee that I chair of government and business, there is a commitment that is made by the business in the role that they need to play, in particular, looking at the TVET college learners, TVET sector learners who come out of those colleges and not get to be placed in terms of their work integrated learning. And it is a responsibility of both government and the business to ensure that they are placed so that they're exposed, because if you can look at how many kids that have gone through that particular sector who are seated at home and counted as not in employment, not in education, no training, and also not being counted as people who have post-matric because their post-matric qualification is incomplete. So there is a commitment as we speak, in particular from the business sector, that will collaborate with government to ensure that that cohort of South African citizens gets to be placed when they get out of the TVET colleges for experiential exposure. Thank you so much, Honourable Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. We now go on to follow-up questions, and the first one is from the Honourable Dlamini.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Chairperson. Thank you, Honourable Minister, for responding to my initial question. You almost covered partially the follow-up question I wanted to pose to you. Indeed, you are our national shop steward on the move. We appreciate your work. Honourable Minister, what will you outline as the outcome and impact of the interventionist measures you have mentioned above pertaining to the contribution of the department to address youth unemployment? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Dlamini. Honourable Minister, your response.
Honourable Chair, when I joined the department last year, I found the labour activation program being put at pause because there was due diligence and property that was conducted to ensure that the work that we do is impactful. As I can't stand here and account for what has been the success rate of placing those individuals who participated in our labour activation program, as an example, being placed on jobs. So it is for that reason that there was a relook and also a decision was taken on the cohort that has been brought in since 2022-2023, which is what I found to be at a halt. Of the 333 service providers who had applied to partner with us, only 7 were successful when I arrived, which I've given an account of more than 115 who successfully are now implementing, with more than 200,000 jobs having been created in terms of skills. But we changed the approach to make it mandatory for those partners when they train those individuals. They don't just train them, give them papers, go and put those papers on the shelf to gather dust and go and join a majority of South African young people in particular who are seeking for jobs, but to ensure that at least minimum of 2 years of absorption is the way to go, and it's made to be a compelling contract agreement in terms of those. So that's how we are trying to improve the way we've been doing, but we'll give a proper report in terms of details on the annual report of 2024-2025 that will be presenting in October. But as I'm saying, this year for 2024-2025 was the year of profit and year of due diligence, which we cannot boldly stand here and say from that financial year, we can give a very proper account on the work that we've done and the impact of our interventions, in particular as the Department of Employment and Labour. And I think in the President's wisdom, it was that reason why we are put to chair a government business committee that deals with the skills, small business enterprises, and also employment, so that we can have a view on the work that is done by both business and by government departments as the Department of Employment and Labour, because our renaming to be such a department called Department of Employment and Labour gives us a responsibility to be able to coordinate and to understand what impact is made by those interventions that are made government-wide in terms of EPWP and other public employment programs of government. But the expectation mustn't be that the Department of Employment and Labour, by virtue of being named as such, it is for employment. We coordinate different role players, including business and other government departments. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The next follow-up question is from the Honourable Badenhorst.
Good day, Honourable Minister. I'm going to speak slowly because English is also not my first language, so let's try and see if we can understand each other today. Honourable Minister, my question is also not going to be political, and I promise you that it's going to be about youth unemployment. So let's see if we cannot get out of answering the question by saying it's not relevant to the main question. Honourable Minister, can you explain why youth unemployment in the Western Cape is below 30%, while the national average is almost at 50%? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Badenhorst. Honourable Minister, your response.
You know, it's very interesting when you drive through the Western Cape to see how
Please continue, Honourable Minister. You're protected.
To see how established the agricultural sector is. And no one can claim that this is the work of the DA in the Western Cape. Because unfortunately, during apartheid era, Western Cape was made to be the hub of economic activities. Hence, you see it attracting many citizens of this country from across, where there was time when once another premier of that province had called our people to be refugees because of the development that occurred in a very segregational manner. And as such, sometimes you get to be confused. When honourable members...
Point of order, please.
Sorry, Honourable Minister, could you take your seat? On what rule are you rising?
Rule 69.
Continue.
Thank you very much, Chair. Honourable Chair, my question had nothing to do with the DA, had nothing to do with segregation, had nothing to do with driving into the Western Cape. My question is about why is the youth unemployment rate in the Western Cape 30% and the national youth unemployment rate is almost at 50%? It's a very straightforward question. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Honourable Minister, can you respond?
Thank you so much, Chairperson. I'm trying to respond. So I'm saying one gets to be confused sometimes. When we as government, we are coming with interventions on what government needs to do to deal with unemployment. Some members in this House and in the NA, in particular members of the DA, always say government has got nothing to do with employment. It is the sole responsibility of the business. But when it comes to bragging about numbers in the Western Cape, they always want to associate that with the good work that is done by a particular political party that is in charge in the Western Cape. So the answer is, it is because all along, when we were not developed as a country, Western Cape was prioritized by the apartheid. And as such, there's a lot of opportunities that are there. And that is not linked to any political party that is doing good. But it's because the business has a hub in the Western Cape for economic activities. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. We now move on to the next follow-up question, and that's from the Honourable Mampuru.
Honorable Chair, point of order, Rule 69.
When you say Rule 69 is point of order,
Yeah, I'm raising a point of order.
on which rule are you rising?
Rule 69.
No, Rule 69 is a point of order.
Chair.
All right, Rule 69(1) says a delegate may rise on a point of order at any time.
So I'm using that now, Chair.
Right, so you must state.
I'm going to if you give me a chance.
Okay, do so.
Chair, please. Can you
No.
make a ruling? Because you're making, this minister is making a mockery of this question session by not answering our questions. This house is here for oversight. Can you make a ruling, please, and let this minister please answer our questions? This is Parliament. It's not a playpen. Please, Minister. Please, Minister, answer our questions.
Deputy Chair,
Stop
point of
directing.
order.
Thank you.
Honorable Bartnos, you must allow the minister an opportunity to answer the question. Now you sit there and you heckle from there and you're distracting the minister. Allow the minister, she has time in which to respond to your question. So let her respond to the question. Honorable Minister.
And I'll be slow this time because English is not my vernacular language. I hope the honorable member will hear me.
Deputy
I'm
Chair,
responding
point
to
of
the honorable
order.
member's question that the reason why the unemployment rate of the youth is low in the Western Cape and is high in the country overall is because Western Cape has been made to be the economic hub of economic activities by the apartheid regime. So they are the beneficiaries of that system. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Mampuru, your follow-up question.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, given that the youth unemployment continues to rise amongst Black people, in particular here in the Western Cape, despite numerous interventions, does the minister agree that the governing party, together with the directionless alliance, who are in the GNU, have failed to put in place any practical or believable plans to create employment for youth to address this crisis? If yes, Minister, please tell us why, and if no, also tell us why.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, your response.
I did say, honorable member, the issue of employment equity in our country is engendered and is racial. And unfortunately, the Western Cape is affected by such. You hear stories that are very scary and sad about what the employers, in particular in the agricultural sector, are doing in the Western Cape when they prefer to displace our Black farm workers, in particular women farm workers, evict them, treat them in a very cruel manner, including not paying them, as the honorable member from the EFF has raised the issue here, including opting to take the foreign nationals who are undocumented to come and work for them. No wonder we brought forward the National Migration Labour Plan so that the minister can have authority in the country, across the provinces, to say this particular sector doesn't need technical skill, it's not a scarce skill sector, and as such, no foreign national, even if that foreign national is documented, may be employed in that sector. So we are looking forward to the implementation of the National Labour Migration Plan to deal exactly with South Africa that is still divided along racial lines in the same country, and there are people who continue to do things and disregard the law.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The last follow-up question is from the Honorable Modise.
Sure. Ngiyabonga Sihlalo. I know Minister ngiyabonga, no follow. Thank you.
He's going to say that's not relevant.
Can I be protected, Chair, from
All right.
Point of order, Chair.
Who keeps on intimidating me?
Thank you. Thank you very much. No, Minister, don't be intimidated. Thank you very much. I think that brings us to the close of the questions to the Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, we thank you for availing yourself to answer questions in the House.
What a pathetic minister.
He must do the same when his minister come to the podium.
Good afternoon. Honourable members, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is now my pleasure. I now call on the Minister of Employment and, I want to thank the Minister of Employment and Labour, and I now call on the Minister of Environment, Fisheries and Forestry to take the podium. Welcome, Minister George. Welcome back to the NCOP, Minister Dion George, who's an ex-member of the National Council of Provinces, having previously served as a permanent delegate of the Western Cape. Minister, your first question that you'll be responding to today is question number 232. It was asked by the Honourable Sitole, and it relates to transformation of the biodiversity sector. Over to you, please, Minister.
Thank you, House Chairperson, and thanks for the very warm welcome. The Department has developed a white paper on the conservation and sustainable use of South Africa's biodiversity and the National Biodiversity Economy Strategy that are central to advancing transformation in the biodiversity sector. Both frameworks emphasize inclusive growth, equitable access and meaningful participation of rural communities, women, youth, and previously disadvantaged groups. The white paper provides the overarching policy direction aimed to transform biodiversity conservation into a more inclusive system that balances ecological sustainability with social and economic development. It seeks to ensure fair benefit sharing, recognize Indigenous and local language, and create pathways for community to participate in decision-making and biodiversity-based livelihoods. The strategy translates these principles into practical economic opportunities by promoting biodiversity-based enterprises such as ecotourism, wildlife ranching, bioprospecting, and the sustainable use of indigenous species. The implementation of some of the goals highlighted in the two policy frameworks is done through existing programs and platforms. People in Parks program. This program was established as a mechanism to improve the interface between local communities and protected area management authorities, especially those communities that have been historically affected by the creation of the protected areas. The program ensures that communities enjoy the benefits derived from the use of biodiversity and are included in decision-making structures of protected area management and are capacitated and skilled to meaningfully participate in the sector and participate in economic development within and around the protected areas. Then on the bioprospecting economy, this is a powerful driver of transformation. It promotes economic empowerment, scientific advancement, and environmental stewardship, where it seeks to promote the use of indigenous biological resources such as plants, animals, fungi, and microorganisms, to discover compounds of genetic material that can be used in pharmaceuticals, agriculture, cosmetics, biotechnology, environmental solutions. The program supports previously disadvantaged individuals to participate in commercial activities, including harvesting, processing, and trading in various products derived from these indigenous plants and animal derivatives. Additionally, through the establishment of the Bioproducts Advancement Network of South Africa, this gears up the cooperative support of bioprospecting and biotrade sector. Recently, from the 18th to the 20th of September 2025, the sector celebrated 60 enterprises at the second African Biotrade Festival, providing them an opportunity to showcase their products and services. Then on the wildlife economy, this program facilitates the development and transformation of industries and activities that generate economic and social value from the sustainable use, management, and conservation of wild animals and their habitats. The program aims to ensure that the sector is inclusive and previously disadvantaged individuals also participate in the value chain, including ecotourism, game meat production and sales, and wildlife utilization, such as leather products, taxidermy, guiding services, wildlife transport, cultural tourism, and wildlife auctions. Then on the institutional arrangements, the department has entered into several memorandums of understanding with various non-government institutions that are affected by the use and management of biodiversity. These memoranda concluded to date include partnerships with the National House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders, traditional health practitioners, and academic research institutes. It is envisaged that these partnerships will continue to the transformative imperatives within the biodiversity sector as championed by the department. And then finally, stakeholder engagement structures and fora. To promote access to information, inclusion, and cooperation, the department has established a number of stakeholder engagement platforms to enhance communication between government and key role players, including communities. Structures established include the National Bioprospecting Forum, the National Wildlife Forum, People and Parks National Steering Committee, Wildlife Forum, and various other platforms that ensure that communities in the private sector are equally involved in policy development and implementation. These platforms are provided to be and prove to be instrumental in ensuring that communities and private sector engage in sector development issues and address transformation. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Minister. Honourable Sithole, do you have a supplementary question to ask?
No, thank you very much. House, on my side, I'm okay.
I beg your pardon, Honourable Sithole, did you say you don't have a follow-up?
No, I don't have a follow-up question.
Thank you very much indeed. Let's move then to the Honourable Pienaar. Honourable Pienaar.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Minister, baie welkom in die huis. Of ek sê eerder welkom terug in die huis. Minister, specifically, part of your department's National Biodiversity Economy Strategy aims to increase the GDP contribution of game meat from extensive wildlife systems from 4.6 billion in 2020 to 27 billion by 2036. What specific steps are your department implementing to achieve this ambitious target and ensure the sustainable growth of this vital sector? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Pienaar. And then to you, Minister, for response, please.
Thank you very much for the question. The Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment has developed a game meat strategy, as I mentioned, and this was approved by Cabinet for implementation in September 2023. Subsequently, the strategy was published in November 2023 in the Government Gazette. The strategy was developed in consultation with the three spheres of government, so everybody was involved. It was public entities, traditional authorities, communities, traditional health practitioners, universities, etc. And the idea is to have a formalized and transformed game meat strategy in South Africa that supports thriving rural economies and nature, contributes to food security and inclusive socio-economic growth, conservation and the sustainable use of biodiversity, while reducing environmental risks. So overall, the game meat strategy in South Africa has shown considerable potential for growth. We have various policies in place, as you might very well know, but specifically we want to make sure that policy and legislation is in the right place, that the industry growth and product sustainability cluster works together, and that demand, supply and consumption cluster works effectively. And also, very importantly, we have a transformational cluster and research and innovation cluster. So we see that with the game meat strategy and being able to harness the natural resources effectively, we currently have a situation where the game meat industry employs 104,000 people throughout the value chain and has the potential to grow job opportunities in the game meat sector by 10% at least per annum by 2030. Using the Labour Multiplier Index applied in Chapter 6 of the National Development Plan, it is estimated that the strategy will unlock 20,400 new jobs, increasing the total employment in the game industry sector to 124,400 people in 2030 throughout the value chain. So as we know, the key thing, the most important thing of the Government of National Unity is to make sure that we can lift our people out of poverty, unemployment, and we want to narrow the inequality gap. And we believe that the game meat strategy is one of the ways to do that. Because very specifically, if you can connect local communities to the valuable natural assets that we have at our disposal to sustainably utilize, then we lift everybody out of poverty. And that is what the ultimate objective is for the department. So the department is very much focused on being a value add to the economic development of our country and the upliftment of all of our people, specifically the people that are located in the rural areas where there are fewer job opportunities available at the moment. So we want to make sure that job opportunities can be created in areas where people are living, where there are assets, and that we can create sustainable industries over time. And that is something that we're moving very well in the right direction for. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Let's go to the Honourable Montwedi.
Thank you very much, House Chair. As a new member of the NCOP, I'm happy to finally see the Minister. After it was said in our meeting that the last time he attended the Portfolio Committee meeting was 15 months ago. I hope that is going to change, that the Minister must go and be accountable before the Portfolio Committee. Minister, since March 2024, after the investment in Daba, there was a clear resolution from the investment in Daba on meaningful and equitable inclusion of one, rural, two, previously disadvantaged groups. Now, challenges of small-scale fisheries, they are still there even today. No one looks like they are going to be resolved because they still remain there. Now, I want to ask a specific question, Minister, to say, tell this House, since you came in, how have you ensured that rural and previously disadvantaged communities benefit as a result of the resolution that was taken in the biodiversity and investment in Daba through your departmental programs? It may be your community forest programs or the wildlife economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Montwedi. Back to you, Minister, for a reply, please.
Thank you very much for your question. And yes, indeed, I'm very excited to be in the House. There has actually been a delay. And I have raised this also because we need to look at programming. I was actually the other day in a cabinet meeting, and that's why I was not in the House, because I really wanted to be there because it was a very important matter to discuss. I do have two deputy ministers, one of whom was in the House at that time. Deputy Minister Swartz, and the other deputy minister was actually in the portfolio committee at the time. So there were three things that we had to do at the same time, but we did try the best to manage them. But I do hope that I'll see this house more often, because I used to be a member and I'm very excited to be here. On the question that you asked, very importantly, yes, indeed. As I mentioned earlier, the rural economy is very important, specifically as we go through the just energy transition. What we want to do is to make sure that nobody gets left behind. And specifically when we look at our previously disadvantaged communities, it is so. When you look at the small-scale fishing industry, that our people have been disconnected from the ocean economy. And so what the department is busy doing now at the moment is working on the ocean economy strategy. That's the basic master plan. We've got 5 pieces of it. The last piece is the oil and gas piece, which is very complicated, as everybody will understand, specifically from the fishing community. But those are there are 5 pillars, and that's the last one that we are working on with the Department of Minerals as well. But specifically what I've done for the small-scale fishers since I came to office was that we're looking very specifically at the proclaimed harbours. There are 12 proclaimed harbours in the country, and many of them are in disrepair. So, for example, if you look at Hout Bay, at this very moment, they are busy working at lifting up the vessels that have sunk in the harbour, that have been lying there for a long time. In fact, there's 3 lying on top of one another that they're busy battling with at the moment, but that's happening. So the key thing is to roll back the decay on our harbours, because then they can be hubs for economic activity. So to have thriving harbour economies, and that's one of the key things that I'm focused on. And as I say, we'll soon be at a point, because I'm working with SAMSA, to make sure that we clear the harbours of these derelict vessels, because they're getting in the way of the fishing community in particular. So that's one of the key things. So we can get more access and more life into our harbour economies. You did mention the forests and the wildlife. We are busy working on a program where we are capacitating communities with what would you call them, smaller forest areas. So for example, I recently visited a place in KwaZulu-Natal where a family who actually own a piece of land and they've been growing trees on that land. So they grow the trees, and then when they're obviously the trees are ready to harvest, they then obviously cut down, and then they are used as feedstock into a large company, and then they get, I think it's around 700,000 Rand in each cycle. So there's some activity going on there. And then obviously in the wildlife space, sandparks in particular, what we've been doing is we've been working on a program so that our communities can get access to wildlife. So for example, that we have made stock available so that they can leverage off economic activity on that. So there's a lot happening in this space. So since I've been a minister, obviously I've realized that there's been quite a lot of, unfortunately, there's been quite a lot of decay on our harbors in particular. And if we get those sorted out, we can make inroads in the fishing communities. Also, we've got very big difficulties in the co-ops. We know this. There was a structural defect, my view, is when they were designed, and that a lot of them get into difficulty because they don't have management skills necessarily. So I've made sure that there's a mentor at least for each co-op in the first instance. So there is a lot happening, and I'm running out of time, else I would have carried on talking about a lot more. But there's a lots of activity happening, and I think that that's the key thing. So any ideas that anybody might have, of course, please share that with us, because we are very excited about possibilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Bang on exactly the allocated time. Thank you. Let's go to the next supplementary question from the Honourable Van den Berg.
Who is not speaking in his natural vernacular, and I see that the minister is very, very good in his natural vernacular, and you have given us a lot of information. But if, however, I could just request a more structured explanation in writing to the Select Committee, and to specify how you have implemented projects since the Indaba in 2024. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, we can do that.
Can you repeat, please? Sorry.
He asked for a more structured response, and I said we would do that.
Okay, no, great, thank you. I do believe that, that is in order. Thank you very much. Honourable members, we now move to question 227, which was asked by the Honourable Pienaar. Honourable Minister, your reply, please.
The Vessel Monitoring System Operations Room within the Chief Directorate of Monitoring, Control and Surveillance in the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment monitors activities of fishing vessels in the entire South African exclusive economic zone, including Marion Island and Prince Edward Islands. South Africa's fishing vessels are required in terms of permit conditions to be fitted with a functional vessel monitoring system for it to be tracked by the operations center while conducting their fishing activities. Foreign fishing vessels are tracked through the Oceans Information Monitoring System, that's the integrated system, and directly from the patrol vessels of the department. This assists in terms of intercepting and apprehending the foreign fishing vessels that are within our waters without the required permission. The number of foreign fishing vessels entering the South African exclusive economic zone or sovereign waters each month varies. However, all foreign vessels that enter our exclusive economic zone are monitored daily through the center. The DFFE has noticed that every year there's an influx of Chinese and Taiwanese squid jigging foreign vessels transversing through the South African exclusive economic zone during the period of May to June, coming from the fishing grounds of South America to their home ports. These vessels do have the right to innocent passage through the South African exclusive economic zone in terms of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, and are being monitored to ensure that they are not fishing within our exclusive economic zone. So should these foreign vessels need to use one of South Africa's ports for refueling or changing crew or getting supplies, they must apply for a permit from the DFFE to enter South Africa's EEZ and then be in possession of fishing gear. The DFFE would then, based on various checks and balances, authorize these vessels to enter the exclusive economic zone and call into any identified port. If a foreign vessel enters any identified port without authorization, legal proceedings may be followed to prosecute such a vessel. The DFFE has built relationships with the various shipping agents and agrees that they would send notification for innocent passage to the operations center for all foreign vessels that pass through South Africa's EEZ. They provide the name of the vessel, the date and the time of entry, and the coordinate position of the entry point, as well as the date and time of the exit and coordinates of the exit point. The monitoring operations center will then monitor the vessel from the entry into our exclusive economic zone until they exit. So irrespective of whether they have sent the notification to the center or not, the operations center will monitor them throughout their period in the South African exclusive economic zone. So the foreign vessels are tracked on a system that was designed by the CSIR in cooperation with the University of Pretoria. And the fisheries patrol vessels also receive these reports and can access all of the information on board at the same time. And so information obtained then can be successfully directed to our fisheries protection vehicles to intercept and apprehend any foreign vessels that are within our waters and do not have permission to be in our water. The DFFE tracks the positions and movements of all the vessels within the zones, and this data is then captured and retained, and also we receive information from satellites and the coastal automated identification system and the radar system and the coastal radar. So we're very much aware of what is happening in the exclusive economic zone. The DFFE has collaborated with other law enforcement agencies and organs of state that play a crucial role in protecting and securing the maritime zones. From time to time, joint operations are conducted under the auspices of Operation Pakisa and Operation Corona, with the deployment of the South African National Defence Force, that's the Navy, the South African Police Services, the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment officers at sea. And these operations are intelligence-driven, using all available tracking systems that are to the disposal of the three organs of state. Any fishing vessels that are picked up in the area are approached and boarded, and activities are performed for a physical inspection. Any foreign vessel suspected of alleged illegal fishing activities within South Africa's exclusive economic zone may also be inspected at one of our designated ports. And if a contravention is found during the inspection process, criminal action is taken against the vessels. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Honourable Pinar, back to you then for a supplementary question.
Thank you, Chairperson. However, the Minister answered my question so completely, I am fully covered. Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Pinar. Let's go then to Honourable Modise.
Oh, no. You know, the response, I'm so intrigued by the response. No further question.
Thank you, Honourable Modise. Let's try Honourable Kennedy from the EFF. Honourable Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Minister. So this sudden influx of foreign fishing vessels in our waters is concerning to note. But my question is, what measures have you put in place to prioritize the surveillance and intervention of high-risk vessels, Minister? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. I wouldn't say that there was a sudden influx of vessels. As I mentioned earlier, is that we do have a lot of traffic, obviously, because we are located where we are at the southern tip of Africa. So we have a lot of vessel traffic, but we do know what is in our waters, where it is, where it came in, where it goes out. It is so that we have got vessels that do break the law. So, for example, we do have, as I mentioned, sometimes we have Chinese, we have Taiwanese, we have Spanish also. Sometimes we have these vessels that come across and that we think may be suspicious. So what we would do in that instance is we would actually hail that vessel and say, look, vessel X, we know where you are. This is the thing. What are you doing? Your speed is X, so are you fishing? And if they'll say, well, no, we're not fishing, we'll say, well, then just come to port anyway, because we want to see what you're doing. If they come to port, which they would have to do, if they come to port, we inspect and everything is fine. Because if you come across our water and you have got fishing gear with you, you have to lock up that gear. So we'll do an inspection and we'll be able to see, well, obviously, if there's fish on board, whatever. So we do that. So I think the key thing is that you can be assured that the department is on it. Obviously, we want to make sure that we surveil our coastline more effectively because we've got some complexities. We know there's illicit movement. We've got some poaching issues, etc., where people go into the high sea and so on. But generally, for the surveillance of our coastline, we have that mostly under control. We also have a very good collaboration with our Navy. So in the event that we have got a hostile vessel, for example, we would then be able to be in touch with our Navy to say, well, look, can you help us because we need to have a hot pursuit here or something. So I would say that in terms of the priority that you mentioned, we have good relationships with the shipping agencies throughout the world. So we will know which ships are supposed to be in our water. We also know those that have reported themselves. And also we've got quite a sophisticated fishing industry in South Africa. So what they would do if they, for example, saw a vessel that, well, you know, we're not tracking this vessel, what is this vessel? They would actually report that and say, well, I've seen a vessel and it's over here and I'm wondering what it is. So we can then go and check it out. So we do check that very carefully because obviously, as I mentioned, we've got a massive territorial water, we've got a very long coastline, and we've got amazing resources that we need to protect because these assets belong to our people. So, for example, the fish stock, etc., we know it's depleting, but if other people are coming and eating our lunch, literally, that is not acceptable. But we do believe we have it under control, and also we have international relationships because multilaterally we do speak to all the other countries in the world that have fishing fleets, and we collaborate. So, well, look, we don't want to have any foreign vessels that are not supposed to be in our waters, and we will watch them, and if there are issues, then we'll raise it with the relevant countries. So I think we've got those bases really well covered.
Thank you very much, Minister. Let's now go to the Honourable Mokoena for a supplementary question.
Thank you, Chair. My question was going to be on the complexities of transboundary illegal fishing within Tanzania, Namibia, and it's not Tanzania, Namibia, and Mozambique. But I think you've covered me, Minister, sufficiently. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Mokoena, and well done, Minister, ticking all the boxes with your initial response. Honourable Minister, let's see if you can do the same now with question number 230. It was asked by the Honourable Dlamini, and I beg your pardon. Yeah, Honourable Dlamini, and it deals with combating poaching again.
The Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment deploys officials on a rotational base to Robben Island, together with a rigid hull inflatable boat, thereby ensuring a permanent presence on the island. In addition, the DFFE also utilizes surveillance equipment and technology to assist in its efforts to address poaching around Robben Island. Where required, the DFFE obtains assistance from other law enforcement agencies such as the South African Police Service Sea Border, the City of Cape Town Marine Unit, and the South African National Parks to assist with enforcement activities. The DFFE has 33 coastal offices between Port Nolloth on the west coast and Cozy Bay on the east coast, with a total current staff complement of approximately 154 officials. The DFFE deploys monitoring, control, and surveillance measures along the entire coastline and is capable of identifying infringements or transgressions in terms of the Marine Living Resources Act. When these transgressions are detected, fisheries control officers deploy the necessary enforcement action and, depending on the severity of the offence, issue fines or open a docket where necessary. Enforcement measures include identifying offences, documenting and maintaining the chain of evidence, and pursuing these matters with the required litigation processes. In addition to the above, the DFFE also conducts special joint enforcement operations in terms of Initiative 5 under the Enhanced Coordinated Enforcement Program of the Marine Protection Services and Government's Laboratory of Operation Pakisa. The DFFE is the lead agency in this initiative and implements this program to achieve an integrated and coordinated approach to ensure improved compliance with the South African maritime law. The DFFE deploys vessel monitoring systems and an oceans and coastal information management system to monitor the entire South African exclusive economic zone electronically. Proactive land and sea patrols are deployed to prevent and address illegal fishing activities. The DFFE is currently also in the process of strengthening relationships with key enforcement partners to assist in its enforcement activities. In addition, the DFFE has identified surveillance equipment and technology to strengthen and improve its enforcement capabilities. Given the sensitivity of the information, the DFFE is unable to elaborate further on the exact nature of its enforcement activities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. We now go to the Honourable Dlamini for a supplementary question. Honourable Dlamini is online. Minister, if I can ask you just to turn your microphone off. It does cause an echo when we go to the virtual platform. Honourable Dlamini, over to you for a supplementary, please.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Good afternoon, Honorable Minister, and thank you for your response in my initial question. Is there any intention from the department to go into partnership with the coastal communities to assist in the fight against poaching and also educate them on the importance of the coastal environment? Thanks, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Dlamini, and back to you for the response to that, please, Minister.
Thank you very much for your question. And it is a vital one, because where we would stop the poaching issue in South Africa is if we have our communities more engaged with the environment that they are in. So, for example, what we have is that we have what we call the hands and the heads in the poaching environment. So the hands are the people who are actually doing the poaching activity. And many times it is a situation where people who are living in poverty and having difficult circumstances are then encouraged to make some money by doing these poaching activities. And then they feel, well, at least I'm getting some money out of it, etc. That, of course, is an unvirtuous circle. But that is what's happening with what we call the hands. Those are the people that are actually on the front line. And if you actually arrest 1,000 people doing the poaching, another 1,000 will come. So the key thing is that you need to focus on the international criminal syndicates that are actually making all of the money off these assets. So the people, local people who may well be involved in poaching, yes, they're getting some income. But if you look at how much money is made by the international criminal syndicates, it is absolutely eye-popping at how much money is made by poaching. So people that have been involved in that may well get a little bit of income, but it certainly is nothing in comparison with how much money this illicit industry is worth. So the crucial thing, and it's the nub of the question, is that if our communities are uplifted and our communities have alternatives, i.e. there are other opportunities, job opportunities, economic development, etc., then there will not be a temptation to become a poacher and become involved in that unvirtuous circle. So what we have done specifically in Mpumalanga around the parks, and we started to do that in Cape Town now, is to be engaging more with our communities so that we can, from a young age, teach our young children that, these assets belong to you. And poaching is stealing from everybody. And so if you are part of a solution, i.e. we do not do poaching, we have other things to do, we will be able to break the back of this problem. For the G20 presidency that we're the president of this year, we are working on what we're calling the Cape Town Declaration, also known informally as the Pangolin Pact, where we want to have an international agreement, strengthen it, because we want to use Pabalo, that is our pangolin, and that's our logo for the G20, as a mascot in the schools, etc. So to teach people about the scourge of poaching and how terrible it is. Because what happens with the pangolin in particular, it is the most trafficked animal. It's a little animal, it's an anteater, and it's got scales. And what happens is when it gets afraid, it rolls up into a ball. And then what happens is the poachers take wire and then they wind it around this poor creature and then they traffic it that way. That is just pure evil. And anybody that knows about that would not want to be part of it. And that's the key thing with our communities. Our communities are the key to that. So when our people love our assets and know that they own that asset, because everybody owns a little bit of the asset, they will then look around and think, you know what, I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to allow other people to do it. And if I see people that look like they might be up to something, I'm going to report it. That is how you fix the societal problem that we have around the poaching. So we have an initiative on that. We are rolling it out, and we will make some inroads. We will make inroads there on the hands. And on the heads, we're doing the international engagements because we know where the poached material is going. So we need to chop that off also at the same time. So we have a very significant plan and we are rolling it out, including in the communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Let's go now to the next supplementary from the Honourable Pienaar again of the Democratic Alliance.
Thank you, Minister. Please indulge me with regards to poaching. As a delegate from Limpopo, I would like to take you a bit more inland. Minister, poaching remains rampant across South Africa, not only in our oceans, but also inland, where endangered plants and animal species are being plundered and sold for astronomical sums overseas, such as the rhino and the miracle bush baby. What measures is your department implementing to ensure the long-term protection and survival of these endangered species? Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Pienaar. And back to you for response, please, Minister.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. I mean, the poaching it is a really difficult situation because it's been, quite frankly, it's been left for a long time. And so it has got worse over time. So it's not only, for example, the rhino horn, it's the pangolin, it's also lion parts, it is plants, it's also trees even. You can't believe it, but people are even stealing trees. So that's the extent to which the system has got into trouble. But essentially what we are doing, as I mentioned earlier on, is that we have a program. My department is now, in terms of the National Development medium-term plan, is we are the lead department now for the illicit trafficking of wildlife. So we, together with other government departments, including the police services, the provincial conservation authorities, the parks boards, the South African National Parks, the Border Management Agency, SARS, the Financial Intelligence Center, and the National Prosecuting Authority, we then look at this thing holistically. Because if you follow the money, you find the problem. And as I said, this is a R1 billion industry. And many, many, many people are getting very, very rich out of it. Most of them are foreigners. So we have got this, also what we have is what we call a fusion center. And there what we do is we collect information. So there we synthesize. So if any transgression happens on anywhere, anybody poaching or any car we see nearby, a particular incident, we collect all of that information. And then we synthesize the information, and we've made quite a number of arrests through that. Also, we work with Interpol, for example, as well, because it is international. So that is the way that you do it. It's the hands and it's the heads. Those are the things that you have to. So there's been 48 initiatives that were included in the 2-year plan. It was ranging from enhancing the effectiveness and coordination of intelligence and information collection and analysis to improve the country's capacity to investigate and prosecute wildlife trafficking as a serious organized crime. Because often we find that people think, oh, well, it's not a priority crime, it's just a trafficking thing. No, it's a big thing because wildlife trafficking is connected with human trafficking, it's connected with drugs and various other things that we do not want to have in our society. So despite the intense pressure for over a decade from rhino poaching and increased security costs, the conservation agencies, law enforcement community and private sector have had various successful breakthroughs in rhino poaching and investigations, as well as increased and better coordination on anti-poaching efforts, which resulted in South Africa having visible populations of both white and black rhinos. So we have turned the corner on those, and we are actually repopulating various places. We won't say where because we don't want people to know where they are, but we are in fact doing that. So we are rolling back specifically on the rhinos, but it's a bigger thing. And as I mentioned, it's a systemic thing. And the problem with South Africa, as much as because we've got enormous biodiversity, we are a target for people who have not got what we have. So we have to protect with everything we have those assets. We have had 261 rhinos poached in the country as at the end of September from the beginning of the year. That is a very high number, although it's less than last year, but it is too high. So we will continue with our efforts, but I do believe that we are going to make some very significant inroads. Specifically, we're doing very much investigations, particularly on the abalone poaching phenomenon as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Let's go now to the Honourable Montwede for another supplementary question, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm very interested to see these rhinos that are being poached around Robben Island. Because I think the question specifically is poaching in Robben Island. And I don't want to speak about Mpumalanga, Limpopo, and any other province. I want to confine myself to that space. Now, Minister, given the ongoing increase in coastal poaching, particularly around the Robben Island, and I've noted your response when you said that poaching at times is actually influenced by economic conditions of our people. Now, you did indicate that there's permanent surveillance where you are deploying officials permanently. You did speak about the special joint enforcement. And I want to know this special joint enforcement, how effective is it to totally eradicate poaching, and how has this reduced these incidents that you're talking about? Now, the other thing, Minister, maybe just quickly is on what your observation that what really caused this poaching. Can you really tell us the practical things that you have done as a department to ensure that local communities living around the coast benefit from legal and sustainable marine resources use instead of having to turn to illegal poaching for survival? What are the practical things that you're doing to incorporate them? Because we agree that the poaching happens because of economic conditions that our people may be subjected to. So how do you deal with that? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Montwede. Members, you remember that follow-up questions are limited to one question each. But Minister, over to you for a reply, please.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. Your colleague did ask a question about Limpopo in particular, and that's why we were speaking about the rhinos, because it's all connected. See, many of the syndicates don't only engage in a particular type of poaching, they get involved in everything, especially the international ones, and they also get involved in the drug trade and the people trafficking, etc. So it's all interconnected. Obviously, specifically to Robben Island, Robben Island is quite an interesting phenomenon because it is in fact a marine reserve area. So people are not actually meant to be in the waters around Robben Island. But what we find is we have inspectors there all the time, obviously, and every single night we actually have people that try to breach into Robben Island. So we know that it's there. And of course, we know if we look geographically at Cape Town, you've got Robben Island, which is situated more or less over there. Then you've got Hout Bay, which is further down, and then you've got Cape Point. So Hout Bay is in between those two. Now, we know that Hout Bay is the epicenter of the abalone poaching industry in South Africa. When we do activity in Hout Bay, then people move further down the coast. They go towards the Eastern Cape. So it moves up and down the coast. But specifically, we do have, you did mention the economic activities, it is so. When you talk about the hands, that the people that are, tempted into poaching, etc. I mean, there was a book that somebody wrote about being a poacher, etc., and their life and how hard it was, and they'd been displaced as a child, etc. So you can absolutely understand that somebody would be born into such a difficult situation that poaching may well be an alternative. And it shouldn't be that way. And that is why we spend so much time and effort, and I certainly do, is to make sure that we can uplift our harbours, because the people need to have an asset to work with. So we've had, for example, fishing communities who have been disconnected from the ocean economy because it's just happened that way. But we need to fix that. We need to sort it out. We need to reconnect people. And what I have done is on the small scale fishing, is because I did not make the allocations of the fishing licenses. It was before my time. So what I've done is the appeals that have come my way, I have, and you can see the statistics, etc. I have swayed towards giving the small-scale fishers more access to fish. Obviously, we can't overfish because we have to count the fish. We do this, we do the surveys, and then we have a certain number of fish that can be allocated. But I'm certainly doing as much as I can when I can on the appeals, is to sway towards the small-scale fishers, because you want the communities to have some good entrepreneurial hook to work with. So we have been doing that. We've also been working with the local communities to assist them where there are cooperatives and they've got got into difficulty, we have worked to attempt to make them more functional because, people who have not had management opportunities don't have the skill. And so they must learn them, and so we will assist that. So those are the crucial things. I'm also got several other initiatives on the go that I don't really want to talk much about, but it is related to artificial intelligence. Because if you're able, for example, to use drone technology, etc., we're doing some testing up in Mpumalanga near the Kruger, but I mean, that's also doable, very much doable here in Robben Island, where the key thing is to know what is going on. So you can see what's happening, people approaching the island, then you can actually send your people to intercept them. So there's lots of things going on, and I'm sure that when I come back to the House in the future, which I'm excited to do, we can give some more inputs on the successes that we're having. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Let's now go to the Honourable Farmer and give him an opportunity for a follow-up.
Chairperson, thank you. Thank you, Honourable Minister. And based on the answers you've given to questions specifically around the fishing industry, with all due respect, Minister, you don't know what you're talking about. Whoa. Really? To answer a question on small-scale fishing by saying you are working with harbors. Harbors don't do anything for small-scale fishers. In light of the poor fisher folk to whom fishing rights are not substantial enough, how many of the people caught poaching are actual members of small-scale fishing co-ops? Honourable Minister, to assist you, in fish poaching on the coast, there are not a single international syndicate involved. It's organized business who buy those poached crayfish and fishing stock. It's organized business. You confuse poaching with fishing with poaching of rhinos. And it's totally different. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Farmer. Minister, I'm sure you have a reply.
Thank you very much. Well, look, I believe very firmly in freedom of speech, so you can say whatever you want to say, but you can't actually have your own facts. That's what you can't have. So the facts are indeed, harbors are fundamentally important for small-scale fishers because that's where they operate from. That is where you actually park the boat so that you can actually, excuse me, I'm answering you, so that you can actually get on the vessel and then go and do your fishing. That's why it's so important that the harbors are functional. That is why it is so
Chair, point of order.
Oh. Minister, won't you take your seat? Yes, Honourable Badenhorst.
Honourable Chair, Rule 68.
Yes.
Please, Honourable Chair, if the Honourable Member can't handle the truth in the question that is asked, can you just please keep quiet, let the Minister continue answering the question?
Thank you, Honourable Badenhorst. Yeah, Honourable Members. Honourable Montwedi, yes?
Point of order, Chair. The same Rule 68 must apply to him because that's what he does when other people are responding to questions.
Honourable Members, I think let's give the Minister an opportunity to reply. Minister, please continue. Minister, go ahead. Please continue.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Yes, so as I was saying, rhino poaching and abalone poaching are in fact connected. And I'll tell you why. You say there's no international syndicates operating. That is untrue, completely untrue. I will not share the detail of it, but I assure you, you're going to be surprised very soon on various things that are going to be happening here, right here in Cape Town, in Hout Bay. So we will be actually dismantling the international criminal syndicates that are operating right here in Cape Town under our noses, and we know they operate from Hout Bay. It is interesting that you raise the question, you raise the comment about organized business that is trafficking illicitly obtained abalone. It's an interesting phenomenon that you mentioned to me. I'd be very interested if you could give me more detail on that because it fascinates me, that particular phenomenon, if that phenomenon is there. So if you have anything about that, I would very much be listening very, very, very carefully because that is something, because if it is so, then you can share that information with me because then we can infuse infuse it into our fusion center and we can strengthen our arms together. Because the most important thing, and this is the thing that we have all agreed on in the Government of National Unity, is that we have to work together. And if we work together, and if you stop screaming at me, you can hear what I have to say. So if we work together, I've got 2 minutes to respond, so let me respond. You asked a question.
Point of order.
Your seat again, please, Minister. Yes, Mr. Badenhorst.
Chair, Rule 48.
Yes.
This honourable delegate can just give the minister an opportunity to answer the questions instead of interjecting the whole time. When he doesn't like the answer, it'll also be very helpful. Thank you, Honourable
Indeed.
Chair.
Honourable Badenhorst, yes, I think that we do need to ensure that there's a difference between heckling and entering into a dialogue. Honourable Farmer, please, you are welcome to heckle, but a constant flow is not what's required, please. Honourable Minister, please continue with your reply.
Thank you very much. The question was asked before that I hadn't been to the House a lot. So I must say I'm very excited to be here because we are having a very robust conversation and I'm enjoying it very much. So thank you very much for the wonderful opportunity I'm having. But I think the key thing is, as was also stated, is that, we have freedom of speech. We can say what we want, but the facts are the facts. The fact is we have international criminal syndicates that are operating from Hout Bay. We know this, and that they are going to find out. I assure you, they're going to find out. So that's the crucial thing. So what we are doing basically is we're looking at the whole system and we are disrupting it. It is so that if we uplift our people and that our people do not see that poaching as a opportunity, as a better thing to do because there's nothing else to do, yes, that will make the situation better. And that is where we will go. On the international criminal syndicates that operate, we know that actually the biggest exporter of dried abalone, take a guess, is Angola, the DRC, and Zambia. How did that happen? They don't have abalone. So what happened was it illegally crossed the border and went out. So we are working to have abalone, dried abalone, uplifted onto Appendix 2 at CITES so that we can manage that particular scourge. But any information you might have about the illegal activities, I'd be very interested to hear them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, we now move on to question number 222. It was asked by the Honourable Kennedy from Limpopo and relates to environmental social impacts of chemical spills. If you can have your reply to that question, please, Minister.
In respect of environmental impacts, the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment enforces the statutory duties under Section 28, that's the general duty of care, and Section 30, incident response of the National Environment Management Act, NEMA. Responsible persons are compelled to contain, mitigate, clean up, and remediate chemical spills immediately. Compliance instructions are issued where necessary with monitoring, verification, and review of remedial closure reports to ensure full environmental protection. In respect of social impacts, the DFFE works with health authorities and municipalities to safeguard public health. The polluter pays principle, as set out in Section 24P of NEMA, is enforced to ensure that remediation measures respond to community needs, including access to safe water and restoration of affected services. To prevent further instances, the DFFE carries out proactive inspections and monitoring of facilities handling hazardous substances, enforces environmental authorization conditions, and requires risk management and emergency response plans. Where risks are identified, collective compliance instructions are issued. Capacity building and awareness initiatives are also advanced to strengthen industry preparedness and reduce recurrence. The DFFE has not issued any compliance notices or directives for the 25-26 financial year in terms of NEMA to municipalities for persistent failures to meet waste management obligations. The regulatory oversight and monitoring of municipal performance in this area falls within the competence of the provincial environmental departments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for that reply. And Honourable Kennedy, do you have a supplementary question to put to the Minister?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Minister. Heard you talking about awareness phenomenon. I'm still on this concerning health hazard spills. What data does your department collect on past spills their causes, and their environmental impact to identify trends and improve performance. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Kennedy. And back to you for a reply to that, please, Minister.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, my department does collect information on it, and we can make it available to you as well. What the Department of Waste and Chemicals does is that what they have to do is, in the first instance, it's the municipalities that are actually responsible to make sure the municipality is clean. When that fails, it is the province that is meant to then do its various compliance. And we know how difficult it is for our municipalities in terms of the capacity to do what they are supposed to do. We also know that the provinces battle to do that as well. So what we do need to do holistically is we need to make sure, and I certainly think that we need to strengthen my department's arm when it needs to act on places that have got these types of pollution and no activity is happening. So we do collect information, and then what we do with that information is we say, well, okay, these are the municipalities, and there are many of them. These are the ones that are having the most difficulties, and then are there any ways that we can assist them? So what we have done in a department is we have designated a person from the department to each of the district municipalities. There are 44, and what they do is that they are actually then located in the district municipalities so that they can be on hand and assist when we have got these complexities in managing the waste. So it's the system again that's not working as well as it should. So what we're doing as a department also is we're collecting the data, and then what we're attempting to do is we're wanting to design a better system. So we want to say, this is how municipalities generally can manage their waste from the beginning to the end, and also there's the phenomenon of the extended producer responsibilities, etc. So that's on a holistic point. But where there's a specific, for example, we had the mercury issue in KZN that I'm sure everybody knows about. It was for many years. It's now finally been cleaned up, and the mercury's been sent off to Switzerland. But that took a very long time. It's because we were working across various parts of the spheres of government. So we do collect the information. We do attempt as best we can is to capacitate the local authorities, because that is where the first response has to be. So we know that it's difficult. We know that many people would say that our country is quite filthy, and in some places it is. But what we have to do is we have to just roll it back from where it begins. And it all begins really is the way that you produce the material, so that at the end of the day, we create a waste management system where waste is no longer something that you just want to throw away, but it's something that has a value. And if you create a value chain, then people won't mess up the environment, because all of the elements in the environment are worth something. So that ultimately is what we want to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. And the next opportunity for a supplementary question falls to the Honourable Modise.
Thank you so much, Salo. Minister, do the department have effective preventative measures against those that are responsible for spilling in our oceans? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honourable Modise. And Minister, your reply?
Yes, we do have very specific laws, and there are measures that can be taken. I think that we don't do it as effectively as we would like to do. And I think that is the reason, is because the system itself hasn't worked as well as we would have liked. But we do have regulations that we specifically put into place quite recently, and that is the ship-to-ship transfers, for example. So one of the sources of pollution we found was that when ships are transferring oil at sea, or they're transferring anything else, actually, they are ending up polluting the ocean. So we have got regulations now in place because they weren't there before. And then, of course, the big thing is implementation. So it's all good and well to have a rule, but then to actually implement it. So if you look, for example, at South Africa's environmental laws, we actually do have, I would say we have world-class laws in place. Implementation is where it falls down a bit, but it's also compliance, because the way a system works is you can't be everywhere. It's like policing. You can't be everywhere. But if you create the system in society where people want to comply, then it makes it an outlier. Your enforcement is an outlier rather than the rule. So that's the crucial thing. So we as a department are working continuously to say, where are the gaps, like we found them in the ship-to-ship transfers? Where are the other gaps that we've got? So is the legislation clear, or is it over-regulated? What's going on here? And then how are we doing in terms of the enforcement? So we collected information. And of course, as you would know, our coastline is nearly 3,000 kilometers long. It's very, very long. But the pollution is located in various places. We know that. So we have got surveillance. We actually do check up on all of the municipal areas, in particular along the coast, but also we take action where we find that there has been some kind of pollution activity. For example, if you've got like an oil spill, that is not my department's responsibility, but that SAMHSA then is involved in that, the Maritime Safety Authority. So we work in collaboration together, and that's what we do. But also very importantly, international laws. If you've got standards of shipping, for example, then they're not, you're going to have a better standard of your ships. But specifically, if your downstream is where the ocean is, so upstream is obviously where the municipalities are. So if you, for example, have a lot of pollution there, what happens is the mess comes down through the river, which is not, unfortunately, the department is not responsible for the rivers because that's the water and sanitation. But when it hits the ocean, it's our responsibility. And oftentimes we find that the problem lies further upstream. So you can clean up at the ocean, but you have to go and get it at source, and the source is at the municipality. And that's why we work with the municipality, so we can stop the pollution from actually ending up in the ocean, because of course we want to protect our marine life and also other resources.
Thank you, Minister. Honourable members, it's now the turn of the Honourable Swart to ask a supplementary question.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Minister. I think, Honourable Chair, my question was related to what the previous question was, and I think I'm satisfied with the answer from the Minister. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Swart. Let's move then to the Honourable Kaunda.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, House Chair. Good afternoon, Honourable Minister. Mine is based on the municipalities' responsibilities, since municipalities hold the mandate for providing waste management services to communities. While municipalities have scored a great stride and made great stride to collect waste and manage it, especially in the townships, decrease or the shrinking of the revenue base of municipalities have negatively affected the capacity of municipality to do this work effectively and as envisaged. Has the department interacted with Department of COGTA to look at measures to mitigate this challenge, and also to look at the possible grants so that municipalities can also source that funding from the department? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Kaunda. Minister, your reply to that, please.
Thank you very much. What the department has been doing basically with the municipalities or at the municipalities is that we do have various extended public works programs. And what we have attempted to do in those programs, and we need to get better at it, is that we want to have more people on the ground so that we can make sure that our environment is cleaner. If you have a system that works, and as I was saying earlier on, if we create the mechanism that we have a virtuous cycle in the municipality, so that, for example, you have a less waste because you're producing better things and they have a longer life, you reuse them and you can then recycle them, then you'll have less waste in your environment. But that will take a long time. So the first line of defense really is to have people that are able and are there, that there are enough hands to be able to tackle the problem. We do cooperate with COGTA because the minister has a very difficult job actually at COGTA, because we know that the municipalities have enormous complexities. Specifically, they've got the financial issues because they have difficulties, and then also it's the expertise. So many municipalities, for example, don't have the engineers that they need. And so if you don't have the engineers, you can't really design the systems. And if you don't have the trucks that are working, then you can't move the waste, etc. So my department has also been working with municipalities to provide some vehicles, for example, so that they can actually move the waste as well. So we have been helping there. But the fundamental thing is that when the system stops working, you have to redesign it. And I think that's the crucial thing. So what I've said to my people in the waste management space is to say, Have a close look at how the system is not working. And then let's decide where exactly in that system we can then go and make an intervention. It is about giving more equipment to the municipalities. It is about having more hands on deck to be able to manage it. But it's also then about the sustainable management of it. And that's the crucial thing, because you can design any new system and make sure the system is better. But if you don't keep it rolling over time, you'll get nowhere. So that's the thing that we have to do. So it's a two-pronged approach, or actually three. Fix up what we've got now at the moment, get as much as you can possibly in there, redesign the system as best possible, and then make sure that we can integrate it and it can work effectively. But I do have a number of plans in terms of the design, because I think that's where it falls down. Our big idea is that if you design something effectively, we can pilot it in various municipalities, and then if it works, we can replicate it. So we can actually say to a municipality, we're not taking over any of your functions because these are yours, but this is a recipe that you can use and we can help you with it, because we want to make sure all the spheres of government are working. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Honourable members, we now get to question number 229, which was asked by the Honourable H.J. van den Berg, relating to the Eiserfontein Harbour. And Minister, if we can have your reply to that, please.
Point of order, Chair.
Minister, won't you take your seat? Yes. If we consider this looks like it might be a 3-hour exam, but no, understood. I do think that the question has been allowed through by the questions office. I think we often see instances where they say further details supplied, which normally deals with issues like this. This is a long question. It's been allowed through. I'm sure the Minister has the capacity to respond, and I will allow him to respond as he sees fit. And perhaps if there's anything that he doesn't get to, then we can ask for him to respond further in writing. But yeah, members, I do think it's important that we keep our questions brief and to the point. If one looks at the brevity of the rest of the questions on the paper today, they are fairly short. This one is extremely long, But Minister, I'll leave it up to you to respond to it as best you see fit, and we can have a chat, first of all, with the Questions Office, and second,
To hear that you might be engaged in along with some of the other fishing harbors in improving, but I will engage you further in the select committee regarding this one. Thank you.
thank you very much, Honourable van der Berg. Minister, is there any response that you want to make?
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. Honestly, I was also surprised that it's not a harbour, because I know there's a lot of activity that goes on. But the fact of the matter is in fact a slipway, not a harbour. But yes, it is so that what we want to do is we want to make sure that we can improve the condition of the harbours, because they are not in the condition that they should be. So we've made a number of interventions. As I said, we're busy now lifting abandoned vessels across a number of harbours. So soon I will be able to say there are no abandoned vessels. But yes, indeed, let's engage further on that, because it sounds like a conversation that's very well worth having. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Let's go then to the Honourable Modise for a supplementary question.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chair. I just want to check with the Minister. And Chair, I'm scared to pronounce the name, so I'm not going to pronounce the name of the harbour so that I don't insult anyone. But to check if this unclaimed harbour, the problems that are there, are they uniquely towards that harbour, or you find them in other harbors that have been declared as harbors? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honourable Modise. And Minister, your reply, please.
I don't think they're unique. As we say that this is a slipway, and there's a number of complexities with a slipway because we've got some slipways in other places. Further down the coast towards Hermanus Way, there's a slipway in various other places. And what happens on the slipways is quite interesting. I went to a place, I won't mention where it was, but it was a slipway. And it was in very bad repair. But the one thing that struck me was that there were new tires that had been tied along the side next to the slipway. So my question was, well, why is it that there are new tires here? Because we didn't put them here. So somebody obviously put them there because there's illicit activity going on. So I think it's all kind of interrelated. Our harbors generally, or our designated harbors, are not in good condition. Because if you go onto the harbors and pick one, you go there, you see the buildings that are old, the derelict, etc., there must be an intervention. Of course, that's the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, and I know the minister is very animated about it. But in terms of the operation, there's been security issues, there's been a number of things that we think, these are lowish hanging fruit, we can fix them up. So what we have done is started off with lifting up the abandoned vessels because they're taking up space and it's making the harbour filthy. We are also working on security and then general operation. Because even if the place is old and tired, you can actually operate it properly. And then you start driving out the illicit activity. The common denominator, I believe, and this is what the information is telling us, along all of our harbours and our slipways, is that there is illicit abalone poaching going on. Not everywhere, but in many places. That is the scourge that we need to fight. So in a nutshell, really, what I am certainly very animated about is to make sure that we can uplift the harbours, we can secure them, we can fix them, and we probably need more harbours. And so maybe this is, a good way to indicate that perhaps this is where a harbour should be. But yes, indeed, we have got comprehensive plans and we are rolling them out slowly, obviously depending on resources. But we are moving generally in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Let's ask the Honourable Skierkogel to pose a supplementary, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hope that Honourable van der Berg is not asking these questions based on the fact that he has a boat in Eysterfontein Harbour. Nevertheless, Minister, while smaller local fishing harbours face environmental challenges, the real elephant in the room remains our major harbours in Cape Town, Durban, Richards Bay and Saldanha. What steps is your department taking to ensure that these harbours comply with environmental laws, that our oceans are protected from pollution for the sake of future generations? Thank you.
Minister, would you like to reply to that?
Yes, thank you very much. I'm actually wearing elephants on my tie, so it's all very appropriate. The department works in close collaboration with the Transnet National Ports Authority, the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, the municipalities and other agencies to ensure that South Africa's major ports operate in compliance with environmental legislation. So under the National Ports Act, the Transnet National Ports Authority is mandated to own, manage and administer the national ports on behalf of the state. And this includes responsibility for environmental management and sustainability within the port boundaries. So they are legally obligated under the National Ports Act and the National Environment Management Act to conduct the operations in an environmentally responsible manner. And to this end, the Transnet National Ports Authority has developed and implemented a port environment management plan for each of the major ports in the country. These address, amongst other, environmental impact assessments and authorizations for new development and dredging activities, waste, ballast water and bilge discharge management, control of hazardous substances, and compliance monitoring for tenants and port operations. In addition, the DFFE provides oversight through the statutory functions under NEMA and the Integrated Coastal Management Act. Through these, the department promotes integrated estuarine management plans that coordinate action among authorities, such as the Transnet National Authority, municipalities and conservation agencies. These plans identify and manage sources of pollution, such as stormwater runoff, industrial effluent, dredging, and sediment containment, ensuring clear accountability for each authority. The department also ensures compliance through specific mechanisms, including oversight on pollution, incidents in terms of Section 30 of NEMA, regulation of dumping at sea, permits for dredged material, and providing technical advice on pollution from shipping activities regulated under South African Maritime Safety Authority, including ballast water management, oil spill preparedness, ship recycling, and hull cleaning standards. Through these coordinated measures, the department is working to ensure that South Africa's major ports operate in line with environmental law, protecting the health of our oceans, coastal ecosystems, and the well-being of future generations. Coastal water discharge dumping permits are issued and regulated by the DFFE, and these are facilities within ports that have been issued with permits. The permits are regularly inspected by environmental management inspectors for compliance, monitoring, and desktop reviews. Oil spill incidents are regularly jointly in terms of SAMSA regulations and Section 30 of NEMA undertaken. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Let's now go to the Honourable Mampuru for a supplementary, please.
Thank you. Greetings, Minister. Minister, given that our harbours are an engine of local economy, supporting fisheries and small businesses in community that depend on them, what assistance have your department provided to restore or service damaged vessels that are often left at the shore, at the harbour by its owner, so that to enable assistance to fishers and coastal livelihood? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Back to you, Minister.
May I just clarify, when you talk about the vessels, are you talking about vessels that are actually moored at a harbour that are working vessels, or vessels that have been abandoned in the harbour?
Ones that have been abandoned at the harbour, Minister. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, indeed, this is quite a situation that we have on our hands in terms of the abandoned vessels. There are various different types of abandoned vessels, and in all of our designated harbours, there are in fact vessels that have been basically they've been abandoned. If you look, for example, at vessels that are foreign owned, we have got one in particular that is on the slipway at Hart Bay. It's a French owner and they've disappeared. So there's a process that needs to be followed. So what we've done is we've identified in every single designated harbour what are the abandoned vessels. So we now have a list of all the vessels, and I have engaged with SAMSA, which is actually responsible for the maritime safety. And so together what we've done is they issued a regulation, a proclamation to say, come forward if you've got a vessel that's lying in one of our harbours. So we have identified some of the owners, and as I mentioned earlier, in Hart Bay, as we speak right now, they are battling to lift 3 vessels that are one above the other. They discovered one underneath the 2 that they thought were there. We did find the owner. The owner will pay for that removal, and of course the removal is now happening. So we started with identifying where the vessels were, or the harbours. We then went and said, can we find the owner? In some instances, we have found the owner, and now we're putting pressure on them to remove them. We've given them a deadline. If they do not remove them, or they do not take action to remove them, of course then, and also where the owner cannot be found, then we will be lifting those vessels ourselves. There is a process to be done as well. And then, of course, they will be either sold off as scrap or something like that. So the objective is to make sure we get to a point where there are no abandoned vessels. We shouldn't have actually got to this, but this is a reflection of a number of years of neglect, because the vessels that we're busy moving now in Hart Bay have been lying there for over 10 years. So what's happening now, just for interest's sake, is that the divers go down, because the idea was to pump the vessel full of water and then it would lift. But the divers had to go in, because when they pumped the water in, it was coming out as fast as it was going in. So divers had to go down, identify where the holes are, and actually patch the holes so that you can actually retain the water to lift the vessel. So it's quite a science and it's very difficult, but we are doing it. It will be. I will come to this house at some point and I will say there are no abandoned vessels lying in our harbours messing them up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. We now move on to the final set of questions. They will all emanate from question number 233. It was asked by the Honourable Mabilo and relates to transferred plantations. Your reply to question 233, please, Minister.
In 2023, the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, after consulting with partners in the commercial forestry sector master plan advertised a bid for a call for proposals for investors willing to form strategic partnerships with communities for the management of state forest plantations. The strategic partnerships will ensure that there is growth, sustainability, and transformation in the forestry sector. The bid was evaluated in 2024 and was unfortunately found to be non-responsive. The bid specifications had been reviewed by the DFFE, and the bid will be re-advertised before the end of the current financial year. The DFFE has developed a post-settlement support package that will ensure that communities are supported as they strive to manage these plantations sensibly within available resources. The package has the following 4 pillars. Capacity building, that's mainly training of beneficiaries, and the branch is supported by the Fibre Processing and Manufacturing Sector Education Training Authority. Business support, which includes support from the industry in ensuring that there is investment. Technical support, mainly provided by the DFFE and provided by the industry as strategic partners. And regulatory support involves provision of an enabling environment for communities to be able to participate in the sector. Initiatives are also underway to get industry to participate actively in these communities in line with the master plan undertakings. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Minister. Let's then go to a supplementary question from the Honourable Mabilo.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Thank you, Minister, for the response to my question. But I must say, Minister, stop running away from attending the Select Committee. You can't be the only minister who's busy, who's not having time for the Select Committee. Honourable Minister, my question is that, are there any mechanisms in place that are used to measure successes or not of the support that is provided to the different local communities? Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Mabilo. Please don't promote me. I'm not the Deputy Chairperson. I'm the House Chairperson. But let's pass back to the Minister for a response to your question, please.
Thank you very much. I can assure you I'm not running away from this committee. In fact, I enjoy interacting with the committee. As I said before, we need to make sure that scheduling is effectively done. And I am committed to make sure that we see more of each other, because I'm very interested in what is happening in this committee, because of course you hold me to account, and that is how it is. And I'm grateful for that. On the success measures, now if we roll back, for example, as I was mentioning in the answer, is what we're wanting to do is we want to increase, or we want to get ownership of local communities of forests. Now, obviously, this is a science that has to be done, because obviously there's no point in transferring an ownership to somebody and then they're not able to manage the asset. That's the key, crucial thing. So we have identified a number of forestry areas that should be transferred and that we would be able to support. What I've also done, because what we're doing is reviewing the forestry master plan at the moment. Now, I'm sure if you've seen the master plan, is the number of initiatives have not been met, has not been achieved. For the very simple reason is that there hasn't been much uptake, because it's a difficult space to work in, because it takes a long time to grow a tree. So what we're looking at is, for example, you have a community, they take ownership of this forest and then they grow the trees, and then they need to have a market for this tree, because else there's not going to be any commercial benefit from it. So we need to identify it, we need to transfer it, we need to then capacitate people so that they're able to manage that particular piece of the forest that they have, and then it will be utilized as feedstock into other companies. So the larger companies which I've engaged with in terms of the review of the master plan, they've said we have a critical shortage of feedstock to come into our factories, for example, etc. So there's already a market there. It's just that we haven't got enough capacity behind the market. So the idea is that you have the trees. As I mentioned earlier on, I did go to KZN and actually met a family who live on the land. She and her family, they basically manage this piece of land, and they've just cut down the trees, and those trees have gone to SAPI as feedstock. So it's a virtuous cycle that can work, and that's what we need to do. So in terms of monitoring, yes, indeed, we know. The reason why we know we haven't made enough progress is because we've measured it. And of course, that's not an answer, because, you know, you've got to say, well, okay, so we're from there. If we haven't achieved the objective, what is the step to sort it out? And the way to sort it out is to get going with these bids, with make sure that we can get the ownership transfer done. So that is an objective that I have in the short run. And as I said before, I look forward to coming back again in the future, and I will give you the progress on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Let's go now to the Honourable Badenhorst for a supplementary question.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. It's a very interesting question. You never know what goes on in the head of the people who write the questions for our colleagues. But Honourable Minister, we've had so many master plans in the past, decades of master plans for the various government departments. And you've probably answered the question already, but just because we've got an extra bit of time, are there any specifics about the master plan, the original master plan, that you would think is an impediment to achieving its objectives? And what would a new remastered master plan include vis-a-vis the previous master plan? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Badenhorst. And back to you for a reply, please, Minister.
Thank you. It is true that when we began implementing the Forestry Master Plan back in 2020, expectations were high and progress was uneven in the earlier years. However, through consistent quarterly governance engagements with the Forestry Master Plan, namely the Operations Management Committee and the Executive Oversight Committee meetings of the Department of Forestry, Fishery and Environment, together with industry and labour partners, we have taken deliberate steps to realign and strengthen the delivery mechanism. Building on this momentum, the department convened a Forestry Sector Master Plan Review workshop on the 29th of September 2025, bringing together key role players from government, industry and labour to reflect on the progress, to identify bottlenecks and develop a plan to unblock the 68 deliverables that remain underachieved. The following key priorities were identified during the review workshop: fast-tracking environmental impact assessments for the afforestation parcels in the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal, securing funding, investment for projects, development and implementation through a blended finance solution, issuing expressions of interest for category B and C and exit plantations, providing communities with expert services to establish governance and business structures, making forest disaster relief funding available to address pests and disease, providing support to fire protection associations, developing and maintaining a central national fire database to improve fire management, addressing capacity constraints in pest and disease management, particularly in the plant health unit, which is the Department of Agriculture, and inspection services, that's biocontrol agents, advancing decent work and social safety, including improved participation by the Department of Employment and Labour, implementing a skills audit and skills development plan through the Fibre Processing and Manufacturing Sector Education and Training Authority, expediting land claims and post-settlement support, addressing illegal and criminal activities in forestry through interdepartmental coordination and compliance forums. So this workshop was attended by myself and the Deputy Minister, and we did undertake several actions to address the bottlenecks at a political and interdepartment level. Each of these priorities have a clear accountable measures. In addition, the department has put tracking mechanism in place, focused on key focus areas, and the area with the largest number of high impact deliverables, that's 27, and the greatest potential to unlock overall master plan progress alongside ongoing monitoring through the quarterly Ops Manco and the EOC meetings. So as you can hear, there's a lot that we've done in terms of remedying the past wrongs of this particular master plan with the view to absolutely break the back of the problem we have in our country, and that is the problem of unemployment and poverty. So if we can get this to work effectively, we can get more of our people into jobs, we can lift more of our people out of poverty, and we can reduce the huge inequality we have in our country. And if we can achieve those as economic drivers, because forestry is one of the main economic drivers in our country, and we have not harnessed that effectively. Because if we do that, we can rise all, if we use that particular term, we can raise all ships together as the ocean of the benefits in the forestry space improve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Let's go now back onto the virtual platform. The Honourable Machobeni has a supplementary question.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. My supplementary, Deputy Speaker, there are challenges that affect subcontractors. Subcontractors are being exploited by so-called contractors despite the existence of the commercial forestry sector master plan. We know this to be true as in Impendle municipality in KwaZulu-Natal. subcontractors who are involved in a water preservation project through extracting plants are being exploited on a daily basis without any interventions. In light of this, what measures have you put in place to ensure that policies are implemented for the benefit of the communities where these projects are transpiring? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Machubeni. We have a problem in the House today with one member promoting me to Deputy Chair, the other one demoting me to the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly. But indeed, we'll continue and ask the Minister to respond to the question.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. If I understood the question correctly, because I wasn't sure if I actually understood the question correctly, about the subcontractors, if the question was about the removal of alien vegetation or generally the use of subcontractors. So maybe I'll just address both. Is that one of the big complexities we have in many of the programs that we have in our country is what you have is the so-called middle people, right? So what happens is there's a project, and then there's the people that actually do the work, and then there's somebody in the middle. And then what happens is so the department would then pay somebody in the middle, and the people that are actually doing the work don't get the benefit. So what I've done as part of my 6 priorities in my department, specifically on the money part, is to say if there are any programs that we have where there are people in the middle, then we need to change them. Because what I've discovered in some of the programs is that you've got somebody that charges a administration fee or a planning fee or a agency fee, and they're adding no value. So what I've said is that if there's any project in the department and we want to make sure, for example, if it's an EPWP program and the person is earning X amount of money, we're paying that amount of money, then I want to make absolutely certain that that money is actually reaching the person that is doing the work and the person that is battling poverty. That's where you want the money to go. You don't want somebody to take something in between. So I found some programs, for example, where you have like a 10 million project management fee, whatever. What is this all about? So I've made sure that I've stopped all of that in the department. There is no program that will have a middle person that will be siphoning off somebody who should be getting paid or a proper wage, and they're not getting it because somebody is getting something that they shouldn't get. So that's the one part on the projects. Then on subcontracting, it would all depend. I mean, if you're talking about the fact that there's somebody that's doing something that's got some value in it, then of course it needs to be paid for. And if you're gonna get a service and it's a good service and you want to pay for it, then you must do that. But the crucial thing is there the value for money? And I think that's the issue. So also, for example, if you look at the removal of alien vegetation, if that's part of the question, is that we do have a number of programs on that. And they haven't worked as well as I would have wanted them to do. Obviously, I inherited these programs. So we had quite a lot of money that's been spent on them, but not much activity happening. And I think what's happening is that there's been a process where people have been disconnected from the work opportunity, so that somebody in between has benefited, and they've benefited improperly, in my view. So in a nutshell, is that in all of the projects the department is involved in, and possibly including these, is we're looking very carefully at, okay, what is exactly that we're doing? Who is involved in it? Are there any people that shouldn't be in that process? And then how do we make sure that we clean it up effectively? So that's the idea. But if I didn't get the question right, maybe just write to me and then I can answer you if I missed the mark on it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. The final supplementary question for the day is given to the Honourable Mhlongo from the MK Party.
Thank you so much, Chair, and good afternoon to you, Minister. My question is, I'm looking at the support on the rural areas. I'd like to know, on the master plan, is there a section that addresses e-commerce? Because looking at the e-commerce, it has the potential to promote independency and to also promote job creation. So I'd like to know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Mhlongo. And your reply, final reply, please, Minister.
Thank you very much for that question, and I think it's a very important one, because as you say, e-commerce is a very, very big component that we don't leverage off enough. So, for example, I was at the Addo Elephant Reserve in the Eastern Cape, and then there were a number of people that were doing exhibitions, and they had a number of things that they were selling, and I bought myself a leather bag. And I said to them, well, this is a lovely bag and all that. And I paid for the bag and they gave me the bag. And then I said to them, well, how do you reach your market? You know? And they said, well, we have been attempting to do this online because that's the way to do it, because then they can actually sell throughout the world, you see. But they were battling on it. So, yeah, I'm very mindful of the fact that we have the idea, but we are battling to actually implement it. So I do think that as we review the master plan, we're doing it right now. I think it would be a very useful thing if we haven't had it effectively in place. It's an opportunity for us to do that, because you would be, and I'm sure you know this, you'd be absolutely amazed at what people are doing in terms of entrepreneurship, particularly in the rural areas. So, for example, we've got our traditional, for example, plants, etc., that you can turn into something that has economic value. Various people are making, they're making creams, they're making makeups, they're making perfumes, they're making tea, all these things, but they don't necessarily reach the markets that they'd like to. So I am very keen on that, because the key thing that's going to break the back of poverty in our country is we encourage entrepreneurship, because it's the smaller businesses and individuals who take initiative, if we can make sure that there's assets available, like, for example, what I do in the department, we do in the department, is make sure that if we've got some asset that somebody can leverage off, then allow them to do that, because it does actually belong to the people. So it's a very important point you raise. I will make a note of it, because I do think at least it deserves a big feature in our new plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that reply, Minister. And I do invite you to resume your seat. Honourable members, I want to thank everyone. I want to particularly thank everyone who has joined us on the online platform today. And I want to note that there have been a number of interruptions to the sound transmissions from the chamber this afternoon. This was the case yesterday as well. And I do want to just apologize to those online on the virtual platform for the interruptions that you've had to endure, and to emphasize that we will be working hard to ensure that this is not repeated. Honourable members, I'd like to thank the Minister. I'd like to thank the MECs online, all permanent and special delegates, for availing themselves for the sitting. And that concludes the business for the day, and the House, therefore, is adjourned. Thank you all very much.